wish good morning to all in Harris Hall and welcome those joining us online. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Lane County Board of County Commissioners to order. It's Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Bit of inspiration. I was coming off the Thanksgiving week and wanted to thank my 6-year-old granddaughter for reminding me of trust and getting to the other side. I was swimming the length of the pool underwater and she wanted to do it too. Without hesitation, she jumped on my back, wrapped her little arms and legs tightly around me and counted to 3. Holding her breath and trusting the lead she attached to, she swam to the other side, and when we surfaced, I was met with that precious glee of accomplishment only someone like her could utter. It reminded me how we lead. Many times we're pushing ourselves to hold our breath, calculating how a policy might affect others, trying to get to the other side, but also realizing there are those who trust us so they will ride the length of the difficulty and challenges with us, trusting we'll get there and with them. And with them, they'll also discover something greater in themselves too. And so I'm thankful for those in our organization and our neighboring communities who lead like that. You inspire me. Good morning, colleagues, and Mr. Mokrayski. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
Good deal. Any adjustments to our agenda?
No.
Any emergency business today?
No.
We have the pleasure of an employee recognition today, which is a delight to all of us. And Mr. Mokrayski, if you'd take it away, sir, I'd be happy to have you do that.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, good morning. I'd like to welcome Christine Moody and Alex Dreyer to come join us. You're aware that we're doing this, aren't you? You didn't know that we were doing this? No one told you?
It was great.
That makes it even more fun, doesn't it? So we're so pleased here to recognize our grant strategy manager, Alex Dreyer, and our budget and financial planning manager, Christine Moody. You all know both of these stellar employees in Lane County. Earlier this fall, Lane County was notified by the U.S. Department of Treasury that our American Rescue Plan Act, commonly known as ARPA, the final reporting for the $72.4 million in direct funding that Lane County received, as well as additional millions of dollars that I think totaled over 90 million, 96?
84.
Was it 8? Okay, I added the numbers. I guess my math is not good. So I have a list of all of these, over $80 million in total projects, but $72.4 million in direct funding was deemed fully compliant. And the Treasury stated, this is a quote, Treasury has officially completed all actions pertaining to the closeout of the Lane County award. This milestone was a big deal. We want to acknowledge the two key players in this effort. You know, when we received those funds, particularly when we were notified of the $72.4 million of direct funding, there's a lot of funding that was provided to cities and counties and states across the country. Critical funding to recover from the pandemic era. But we also knew in Lane County that we were going to be held accountable for how we spent those dollars. And we wanted to make sure that we spent them not just in the ways that were most impactful to our community, but also that they were compliant with the federal rules, right? We didn't want to get in trouble with any of that. So we took very seriously the job of standing up the process for being accountable for those public dollars. And I'll just remind everybody that you'll recall that Congress passed the ARPA funding package in early 2021. That was actually in the middle of the pandemic. And that's the time at which we learned that we were going to be awarded those funds. Later in the same year, the Oregon legislature began allocating funding to local projects through county government for local administration. So we knew that we needed to quickly stand up this team in order to manage this really once in a lifetime opportunity to receive funds and to spend them in the way that was going to have the biggest impact for our community, and in a way, again, that was compliant with federal rules. So Alex was at the center of this effort from the beginning until the end. When the federal government launched ARPA, which was a brand new program with brand new regulations that we had not, we manage grants all the time, right? And so we're familiar, our staff within our departments that manage grants that have different rules from different federal and state agencies are very familiar with how to do that, even when those rules, as we've seen recently, have changed. But this was a completely new program with new rules and new requirements. So Alex had to learn those requirements, had to build a transparent and compliant system, guided the board and our departments through every phase of that implementation. And, you've heard the phrase of like herding cats. It was like herding cats in a way, right? Because we had, all of our departments had ideas about how to spend resources. The commissioners all had ideas on how to spend resources, and our community all had ideas on how we should spend resources. Alex was at the center of managing a lot of that work. So the immaculate audit report that we received from Treasury is a testament to Alex's diligence, expertise, and steady leadership throughout the process. And Christine played a critical role in organizing all of our department directors around the allocation of these federal resources to ensure that residents in Lane County receive maximum value from these federal funds. She was my thought partner in this work and thinking through the process and the strategic investment opportunities. We had regular calls with our department directors. We kind of formed a policy team to have these conversations about, you can all imagine we had more needs in the community than we had actually resources to spend. And so we did actually have some decisions that had to be made. So we built criteria around how to best implement those dollars based on what the federal rules were, as well as based on what our local values here in Lane County are and the needs that our residents had. So all of that work in the way, and I'm gonna go through just a reminder of some of the projects that we invested in. They're a reflection of the diligence of this team from start to finish, making sure that we spent those, that we followed all the rules, we documented everything, and that we were responsive and impactful to the community. Of the what did you said it was 80?
Oh, you were right, 96.
It is, I did my math right.
I was thinking what I managed.
Okay, $96.2 million was the total amount. So yes, the 74, as well as some additional, was what Lane County received. We also had pass-through dollars that we did do some reporting on and that impacted in our community. But here's the breakdown: $27.6 million for housing, $27.6 million for housing from the federal dollars that we received. $13.8 million to provide homelessness supports in the community. $9.1 million for nonprofit service providers and economic development in the community. $8.5 million for healthcare facilities, including our stabilization center project, the South Lane Clinic and the Charlton Clinics. $17.5 million in facility upgrades for the Lane County Jail. That work is still ongoing. I think is scheduled to be complete early to mid 2026. And $19.7 million for COVID response and government services, as well as infrastructure and fire recovery funds. So we have a list, and I won't go through all of the detailed things, but those are kind of the broad categories. The board, you all remember, because you approved ultimately all of these projects and these funds. As part of the $9 million for nonprofits, I just want to touch on those funds that flowed through Lane County to the nonprofits. You may recall that the board directed staff to stand up a $3 million community award program, and this team made that happen. So that actually requires a lot more, when we identify a project and then we can provide funding directly to that project, we manage those resources directly for that. In this case, the board said, we want to release $3 million and we want the community to have, nonprofits to have access to that, but we asked for folks to submit applications and did reviews, and there's a lot of process and logistics involved in that work. Many hands that made this work possible: our facilities teams, our finance team, our program staff across our departments and within our partner organizations. We also recognize some of our former colleagues that began this work with us: Robert Tintle, Valerie Van Acker, and Rosalind Miller Champion, who worked on ARPA over the past 4 years. All of these efforts needed a hub, and Christine and Alex really played that essential role of being the two folks that had different pieces of the portfolio, but worked together with all of these folks to make sure that that these funds were responsibly managed. They were the constant, the ones who kept everything moving, solved problems as they arose, and ensured that this once-in-a-generation investment delivered lasting benefit for Lane County residents. So I want to, on behalf of all of us here in Lane County, thank you, Alex and Christine, for your dedication, for your professionalism, and your exceptional service to Lane County. Do either of you want to say anything before we let the commissioners weigh in?
I just want to say thank you. This means a lot to me. Public service is very important to me.
Yeah, I would echo the same, and then maybe just, again, stating what Steve has done, that when those funds came in, we didn't just want it to be when the pandemic was over, that we were just in the same place we had been, and that maybe we had just survived, but that you could tell that we had received this influx of funds and that the community was better for it. So I think we accomplished that. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCrasey. To the board, Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair LeBlanc. I wanted to go first because I'm going to take everybody else's time. I actually just wanted to you first, Christine. 15 years ago, I sat in the back of that room watching you when I was deciding if I wanted to become a county commissioner. I thought, yeah, if that's the kind of work I'm going to be around, I want to be a county commissioner. You really are a leader in this organization. You have been for longer than probably anybody in this room. And thank you for that, Christine. But to you, Alex, to give a synopsis of the work that you've done prior to this, that got you ready for the work we're talking about today, I'd have to pull more than a dozen files from my library and my archives to just give a brief history of the work that you've done in Lane County. I first met you 8 years ago when you came here. You worked with the Poverty and Homelessness Board extensively in not its earliest days, but in its formative days. And the work that you did there, you brought everything together in a fashion that really is indescribable. The work, the impact that you have had on human services in Lane County from the day that you got here. You came with a wonderful educational background, an MSW from Arizona State, highly praised, highly prized, and you put that to work immediately. The work we're talking about here is instrumental. You say, oh, it's only $76 million. Only, yeah. That used to be a lot of money, didn't it? But seriously, Alex, I couldn't go on long enough to describe the impact that you've had on my work and on the work of all of us who care anything at all about human services in Lane County. You are a superstar, Alex. And I say that in front of your mom, Carol, who joined us from Tucson today. I'm glad that you're here to hear how highly treasured your daughter is here in Lane County. Thank you, Alex.
Commissioner Buck, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you both. The amount of funds that have flown through both of your departments is pretty incredible. We're celebrating the ARPA money today, but there's a lot of other finances and grants that you both manage. And I'm not sure the community really knows. So I appreciate having a moment to recognize you both for all the hard work that you do every single day, but also the amount of lives that you touch by being able to do this work, even though it seems very administratively burdensome at time, I'm sure, because we are talking about federal grants. But the real lives that you touch with being able to facilitate this allocation of funding is pretty incredible. And we as a community are so grateful to have you here. And thank you for working here in the county.
Commissioner Trigger, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Hi, Mom. That's so cool. That's who was sitting there. That's great. What I love, this is employee recognition. So absolutely want to recognize these two employees and the teams that work alongside and behind them. But I also see this as a celebration of these employees we're recognizing, really exemplifying the best of how we operate at Lane County when we're getting it right, which is demonstrating real fidelity to good fiscal stewardship, absolute transparency about how we're spending those dollars and how we arrived at that decision. The website, the web page about the ARPA funds was continually, you could go click on a million links and really get deep into what were the initiatives that we were funding, why and how. But what I really also love about how we as an organization chose to spend those funds is we had some flexibility within some pretty specific constraints, but the purpose of ARPA funds at that time, for those of us that were on the board in the midst of that that really challenging time with the pandemic, the impacts, the funds were given by the federal government to local governments to help the local governments stabilize because of the impacts of the pandemic. And so we could have spent all that money on our own operations and programs because, as the administrator said, there's always more need than there is resource. So we made a very conscious choice to, yes, address some of the internal strain it was placing on our financial structure and systems, but to really make sure we were putting that money out into the community to reflect the extraordinary challenges that the pandemic was creating in the community. So when you look at this mix of initiatives and the way we spent the funds, some of it was our own operations to deliver these services, but a lot of it went out directly to community. And I think that's also a really important value. And without staff leading a program and holding those values at the center, it doesn't happen. So in addition to, when you look through these projects, we talk about the $3 million community grants project, which was at the request of the community. Hey, we hear you got all this money, can we get some? And we set up that program, which that in and of itself, setting up an entire grant program with a $3 million sort of corpus. And I remember I was one of the two commissioners there was a whole team of us, but two commissioners reviewing those, and I didn't think I was getting into such a project to review. How many applications for those funds did we end up having?
I don't recall.
It was a lot. I mean, it was, yeah. And so we haven't even heard about the impacts of those projects today, like the ripple effects of the way you structured and supported setting up these funds is so impactful, on top of the direct allocations through the listed projects to a lot of, so this really went money out to the community to help the community, as well as help shore up and stabilize some county services that were so strained at the time. So just such appreciation for both the technical aspect of what you did, but also the values that you brought to it. Really great work. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, Alex, and Christine, and the entire team, it's great that you got to see a project like this, of this magnitude, from start to finish. And, it sounds like a very nuanced project, and for you to take it on and not be just absolutely overwhelmed is very impressive. I mean, that's a lot to sort out. And to come with a flawless audit at the end is great, and that is the kind of work that we've become used to, but isn't maybe normal. So we want to thank everybody for the kind of work you guys put in and to make sure all those numbers add up at the end. In the service and services you provided for the residents of Lane County, which is why we're all here. And I love to hear you say that you're here for the, how did you put it? For the service?
Public service?
For the public service, that's what it was, yeah. You're here for the public service because that's why we're all here. So thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your discussion on the numbers. I'm so glad that you were more accurate in the actual than in the discussion here, so that was really good. Numbers are a tough business, and I appreciate folks that get those numbers right and have flawless reviews. But I also echo the thoughts of my colleagues. But we mentioned the word accountability a lot, and accountability is really a ripple effect. When people that are in leadership positions that are accountable, your excellence in your performance and your decision-making was unmatched. I mean, these were a lot of funds. You had to juggle a lot of different areas, a lot of different inputs, and you funneled that really well into the places where we as a county and a municipality and a community would get the most return on our investment. And I think that forward thinking is what really impressed me about how the county and yourself and your team handled this flow of money. This work not only affects the budget team, but it tends to affect the whole organization. Because of you and because of the stewardship of your money, we become better in our service. We've become more successful with specific outcomes and goals. And we have, I think, better morale and performance based on your guys' ability to do and funnel what you've done. So I think the ripple effect of that is more than what we will know in this meeting, but we will continue to reap those benefits in our organization in the community. So that, to me, is most impressive for what you've done. So I want to thank you for that.
Chair, can I
Commissioner Trieger.
add in, because I went to the website, because it's still a great resource, 71 applications we received, and we funded 17 unique initiatives around the county. So again, standing up a $3 million grant program and reviewing 71 applications in and of itself would be worthy of recognition. And that's not even the part of the money that we're talking about. That's the difference in the $2 amounts named. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for being on the hot seat for this long. I appreciate everything you've done. And team, thank you. Mom, hello, how are you doing? You must be justly proud. Good deal. Awesome. That's good to hear. Well, thank you again. Have a great day, y'all. That's always fun. I like that, especially when moms come. That's the best. We're on to our public comment section now. The public can speak here in person at Harris Hall or online. The time is limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. We will ask you please to watch the clock on the screen here and stop at 3 minutes so we can be fair to everyone. You can also submit public comments via our website in writing at least 24 hours ahead of our meeting to be included in the weekly meeting packet. We respect your First Amendment rights and wish that you can share those with us, but also do so in a civil manner. So as you come to the podium, please state your name for the record, and you can begin. We will start with Chris Cirillo, followed by Denise Jessup, please.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Chris Cirillo, and in light of the holiday, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. The real story of Thanksgiving is unapologetically Christian and unapologetically American. It began in 1620 when the English Puritans crossed the Atlantic, not seeking wealth, comfort, or exploration, but actually the freedom to worship Christ according to the scriptures. Governor William Bradford wrote that they saw themselves as pilgrims because their true country and ultimate allegiance was in the hands of God. After 2 grueling months at sea, these men and women landed at Cape Cod, and what did they do first? They fell on their knees and they blessed the God of heaven, echoing Psalm 107, saying, "Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness." Their first winter was catastrophic. Half of the colony died. Yet in the midst of heartbreak, they clung to the providence of God. Then came God's unmistakable mercy. Samoset and Squanto, 2 natives who, against all odds, learned to speak English, partnered with and taught the Pilgrims how to plant fish and survive. Bradford wrote that these men were special instruments sent from God for our good. When the 1621 harvest finally came, the Pilgrims had held a 3-day biblical Thanksgiving feast with scripture, worship, singing, prayer, feasting, and covenant renewal. Massasoit joined them with his 90 men and contributed 5 deer, a then sign of friendship and peace. In 1789, George Washington issued the first national Thanksgiving proclamation, declaring it the duty of nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God. Then, in 1863, right in the middle of the Civil War, when Abraham Lincoln was fighting for the freedom of the slaves, he declared that the last Thursday of November to be a recurring national day of thanksgiving and praise to Almighty God. In that proclamation, he lists all the blessings the nation still enjoyed and says that they can't be attributed to anything but God's providence. And then he calls the whole nation to humble repentance for its sins. Thanksgiving has always been a public confession of dependence on Christ, a national acknowledgement that everything we have comes from the hand of God. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your mercy towards this nation, mercy that we do not deserve and can never repay. You've carried America through wars, famine, disease, turmoil, and division, just as you carried the Pilgrims through their first brutal winter and beyond. Forgive us, Lord, for forgetting you. Forgive us for our pride, for our idolatry, for bloodshed, for abandoning your ways. Today we ask you to purge evil from our land, uproot violence, corruption, witchcraft, deceit, and every work of darkness. Bring revival to our cities here, repentance to our people, and renewal to our leaders. Bless this nation not because we are worthy, but because you are good. We give you thanks, we give you praise, and we acknowledge you as Lord over all. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Denise Jessup, followed by David Eigel.
Good morning. I live in District 3. I've lived in Lane County for 33 years, and I'm not very comfortable doing this.
Denise, you're doing great. Just right to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay, should I say that again?
No, you're good.
Okay. I want to thank you, commissioners and staff, for your service. I don't think it's probably ever an easy time to be a public servant, and I think in a time of authoritarian takeover, it's probably harder than ever. I'm here to speak against flock cameras. It's not an easy time to be a public servant, but it is a time to be brave. I'm a retired psychotherapist. I don't enjoy public speaking. I'm not used to being an activist, but I'm called to do that now. That's why I'm here, and asking you to be brave too. You are our guardrails. Greater efficiency in arrests does not warrant mass surveillance or the loss of freedom. There are so many risks with Flock. Please, we the people, your people, are asking you. We're speaking. We voted for you. We've spoken out in various venues for months. Please honor our fervent request to stop Flock in Lane County. Thank you.
Thank you. David Eigel, followed by Chuck, looks like Arford? Thank you.
David Eigel. I'm trying to keep it simple and right to the point. I'm here to talk about, I'll just say Professor Dunn today. In a nutshell, 1921, this summer, crooks came, were selling memberships in a fraternal order called the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. They were crooks. They were part of a nationwide money hustle. And they, through social networking, they lined up a lot of leading citizens, got them to buy memberships. And when the first few months of meetings, people said, this is not, these leading citizens, this is not what I signed up for, and they dropped out. By January of 1922, they switched to mass marketing. That's when you had people riding around on horses and gowns and a cross burning on Skinner's Butte. And then, but as the local newspaper reported, don't worry, citizens, the Klan hasn't arrived. This was a publicity stunt to sell tickets to a theater downtown on Willamette Street in Eugene. And what they did as a part of this period, starting January forward into the summer, they were running around telling people, they lied to them and said, Professor Dunn is the leader of our group. Just like if someone were selling tickets to some event and were trying to sell memberships and lied to people who are not very well educated. I'm Dave Frohnmeyer's the head of our group. Same type of thing. So there was a letter written by Dean Sheldon to a mutual friend of himself and Professor Dunn, in which he says, hey, he lists a number of things. They're all not true. One of them, I've heard it said that Dunn is the head of this organization. He concludes by saying, the wildest rumors are afloat. The whole thing is very silly. And that's how we got off. That's why 70 years after the events in question, 30 years after Dunn Hall was named and dedicated without any objection by anybody, 1992, Eckhart Tolle publishes this nonsensical article. He did almost no work on Dunn, which I've documented, and I'll send you a nice, clean, I hope, write-up for this. What I'm asking the commissioners to do is two things. One, a year ago, I pointed out to the Board of Trustees that President Scholz had been unable to produce the incontrovertible evidence he said he had that Dunn was the exalted Cyclops or chapter chairman of the Klan here. So I'm going to ask, I'll send you something, I'll ask you just simply to ask the President's office in a nice way, put up or shut up. And the other is, in terms of the county museum, which we're funding, that various issues of misinformation that have been put out in recent years be addressed. Simple as that. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Chuck Arford, followed by Rob Sheldon, please.
Good morning, Chuck Arford. I worked for Lane County for 22 years and am now retired, and was very happy to see the employee recognition this morning. We must recognize that we're not all here. Members of our community have been incarcerated and deported, others have fled, and many, many more are terrified to come to a public meeting. I'm opposed to the county's potential use of flock cameras. The United States has more people in prison than anywhere else. 1 out of every 5 prisoners in the world is incarcerated in the U.S. Our incarceration rate is 5 times that of communist China. We are a society of mass incarceration and imprisonment, and the Trump administration wants to put even more people in prison. They are working in partnership with the Palantir Corporation and flock cameras to do just this. ICE and DHS use Palantir data systems, which are integrated with flock cameras. So, quoting AI here, law enforcement agencies using Palantir systems can incorporate the massive trove of data collected by flock cameras into their broader investigations and analysis. And there's no way to stop this. Remember when DOJ raided our Social Security information? If the feds want our flock camera photos, they will come and take it, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. So don't gather it in the first place. The use of flock cameras violates our sanctuary status. Private corporations like Palantir may now have our Social Security information, our medical information, our DNA, our facial recognition. Trump recently approved Israeli-type phone spyware to be used against those protesting his immigration policies. This is all in addition to millions of daily flock camera photos. Trump is building a private police state. The current administration is lawless and unhinged. We see how alleged drug smugglers and boats are labeled as terrorists and executed without trial or evidence. Yet Trump just pardoned the ex-president of Honduras, convicted in the United States by a jury for smuggling 40 tons of cocaine and arms into the U.S. Trump's press secretary has referred to Democrats as terrorists. I'm not a terrorist. I doubt that anybody in this room is a terrorist. Mostly patriots. No flock cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Sheldon, followed by Joyce Peters.
Hi, good morning. I'm Rob Sheldon. I'm a resident from Springfield, speaking here for the first time. I've been a tech and software development professional for about 30 years, with a lot of experience in network and software security. For the last several months, I've also had a part-time role talking about Flock. I'm one of the organizers of Eyes Off Eugene, and I've spoken around the state on this topic. I've spoken with national media. I've had multiple conversations with attorneys from an assortment of national firms. I am likely the closest thing to a subject matter expert that you're going to hear from on this topic. I'd like to speak about, there are many reasons to not be doing business with this company. I'd like to speak about one of those, the topic of data ownership. You've probably been reassured that you have a contract that states that you own the data collected by Flock. This does not actually grant you control or power over that data, however. It works best when seen as a disclaimer of liability by that company. They have engineered their systems to guarantee that they have absolute access and control over that data at all times. Journalists have already uncovered multiple abuses of this data. Flock has the ability to provide third parties access to that data at any time without your knowledge or consent. They have done this already. What are you going to do in the event that a future abuse is uncovered? Is Lane County going to sue a $7.5 billion tech company? Even if mass surveillance was an appropriate tool for law enforcement, and I don't agree that it is, this company in particular would be one of the worst possible options that you could choose from. I'm currently in contact and coordinating with a number of local officials on this topic. I would be happy to talk with any of you as well, one-on-one. I don't have a background in activism. I'm a fairly well-grounded individual, but I would like to help you get up to speed on this and understand the topic a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce Peters, and we'll go to our online queue after that.
Hi, I'm Joyce Peters. I live in the region covered by Commissioner Senega. Thank you for your service. This is new for me, but this means a lot to me, and that's why I'm here. Thank you all for your public service. I couldn't do what you do. I'm here today to urge you to review the security practices of Flock as a corporation, as others have mentioned. Do not fall for their public-facing propaganda. And this is not a conspiracy theory, as I heard someone on the news state that was interviewed. Other reports have stated that they've recovered stolen vehicles, or thieves have been captured using Flock information, the information gathered by Flock. I don't think it's worth every single one of us in our community losing our right to privacy to recover someone's stolen vehicle. They said there were 3. A group of thieves. They have, stores have cameras. They can use those. I've had to use that myself when my wallet was stolen. I don't think this company in particular is trustworthy, and I don't know how to say all that's in my heart, but I believe that it's wrong to let this company take away our right to privacy. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Now, Jessica, who do we have online?
Thank you, Chair. For those joining us virtually, if you would like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand now. I do not see any hands raised. Chair, I'll return it to you.
Awesome, thank you very much. And I want to just say thank you for those that came out to Harris Hall today to testify publicly. You'd mentioned a couple of times, a few of you, that you'd never done this before, and you did a great job. And I would invite you back, invite your friends back. This is the place where you get to tell us what you want us to do and what you want us to think about. It's your most powerful tool to address the Board of County Commissioners, other than if you take them out to coffee or something like that. But I just want to thank you for your courage, for stepping up and doing what you did this morning. Y'all did a great job, and we'll invite you back anytime you want to come back. We'll listen to what you have to say. So thank you again very much. As we move on our schedule, we come to our consent calendar. Our item 5, all items listed here are routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items. If the discussion would be desired, the item would have been removed from the consent calendar and would have been considered separately. Details to these items can be found in the links on our website. We do have a new e-scribe service now, so it's a little different than it used to be. It's on the very bottom of the page, and it has an HTML or a PDF version that you can look at. I'm looking for a motion on our consent calendar, please.
Chair, I move to approve the consent calendar for December 2nd, 2025.
Awesome, thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the consent calendar. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Our number 6 item is our county admin item. It's Order 25120206 in the matter of approving the sale of a real property located on Rhododendron Drive in Florence. And I believe our property management officer, Ms. Kelly Hancock, is here to give us the briefing on that. And perhaps Elizabeth Thompson will be joining her, which would be the Executive Director of the Oregon Coast Humane Society. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Thompson. She's the Director of the Oregon Coast Humane Society, and she has a presentation she's going to give us today. She has been, under her leadership, we have seen great things from the Oregon Coast Humane Society. They have made incredible improvements, just done some wonderful things with the animals. It's always a joy to go and visit her. She always threatens to give me a complimentary kitten. Luckily, none came today. So I'm not going to take up any more of her time because she has a great presentation ready to show you all and tell you a little bit more about the great work they've done there. Because of our wonderful partnership with them, we have agreed to sell the land that they are currently leasing from us near the waste management facility there in Florence. Buying the land will allow them to make substantial improvements and do things like walkways and pathways for the animals and just kind of better define their boundaries. there at the center, I guess you would call it. So go ahead, take it away, Elizabeth.
Good morning from Florence.
Good morning.
I'm a resident of Lane County for the last 32 years, and I've lived in almost everyone's area. So I appreciate that you're community builders and that you advocate for all that is good in this world. We're lucky to live here. So I moved to Florence in 2021 to work for the organization after living in Eugene and Crestwell for 30 years before that. And as Kelly said, we've made some pretty incredible changes during the time that I've been there. The organization has been active for over 30 years. And our mission here on the first page, this is a mission that was created before I started, and it's a lot of words that basically say we help animals and the people who love them. And the thing that I love the most about our organization is decisions about life and death are never made based on cost of care. If an animal needs a surgery, I go out and ask a donor to help me pay for that. Length of stay, if it takes longer for an animal, they still have a safe place with Oregon Coast Humane Society. Or space, which is why I'm here today to talk to you about how we need to expand. The only barrier to us serving more animals at this time is our building. So the building was built almost 30 years ago, and we outgrew it probably 20 years ago. So we've been doing what we can. Even today, I have a dog living in my office. We have a cat living in the office manager's office, and we have kittens in our break room. So we do whatever we can to help the animals, but it sometimes is at the expense of the people. So let's see. All right, so serving both ends of the leash. Everything that we do is to keep people and pets together. And this is what's really great about sheltering nationwide. It's moving away from your animal is better served surrendering it to us, and how do we help you keep your pet? And so if somebody comes to us and they have a crisis, a financial crisis, a medical emergency, our goal is to work with them so that they can keep their animals. So we do that through the programs here. Our community pet food bank, 2 years ago, we were feeding 300 animals. We're now feeding 550. So the need is critical in our area, as it is in all of Lane County and nationwide. Through that program, we also provide spay-neuter services for all of the animals that are enrolled in our pet food bank, and we do that free of charge to the pet guardian. Our senior pet program, we are a senior community in Florence, average age is 60. The goal of this program is to keep the senior humans with their pet. So if one of our neighbors has gotten to the point they can no longer afford the cost of care for their pet, we want to keep that animal in the home. And so we provide all of the medical necessary as well as any supplies that they would need so they can keep their animals. Sarah Fund vouchers, that program is to keep emergencies from being a decision that has to do with euthanasia. So if someone has an animal who's got a broken leg, an abscess, they can't afford the care, then we step in and we provide that. And that is provided through a fund that was created over 30 years ago by one of our volunteers who has left a gift that will go into perpetuity to support that program. Spay-neuter vouchers, that's our obviously biggest thing, keep animals out of the shelter by stopping unexpected litters. We provide those to our people who need them, and we also provide the service in-house if that would be easier for them. This picture here is from Lane County Stand Down. So this was you guys have these here too. This one was at the Elks in Florence. It was one of the first ones they had. We took one of our veterinarians in our team. We provided free microchips, free vaccines, and then pet food and supplies, harnesses, leashes, whatever, to anyone who came. And then we signed them up to get their animal fixed so that we could stop the cycle of unexpected puppies. Okay, so 2025, we're having a great year. These are the numbers so far of animals who have come into the shelter. And this really shows the need of why we need to expand the building. So 891 animals have seen through our clinic. These are community-owned pets that we serve through spay, neuter, dentals, mass removals, vaccines, microchips. So these are all animals that stay in the home because we can help them. And this is on a sliding scale or no-cost fee. So it's done, whatever people need, we meet them where they are. 253 owner surrenders. Those typically are local, but when I say local, I mean all of Lane County and surrounding counties. Right now, when I look at these signs, there's not a region here that we don't have animals in our care right now from. We say yes when others say no. If we have room, this is why we have kittens in the break room. We say yes if we can. Because at the end of the day, we don't want the animal to be dumped, and we don't want the animal to be neglected. You know, people, if they have to make a choice caring for themselves or the pet, we want to make it it where everybody gets cared for. We've had 49 returned adoptions, and this is because we make a lifetime commitment to every animal that leaves our building. So when grandma has to move into assisted living and her cat cannot go with her that she's had for 15 years, she adopted from us as a kitten, we take the cat back and we find the next home for the cat. We have several like that right now. We've had 494 strays come in. When you see the next slide about how many have gone home, you'll see it's really disproportionate. We're not returning near as many animals. We're seeing a lot more dumped animals and animals abandoned. We're seeing it throughout the area, on the beaches, in the town. It's really kind of a crisis for a lot of people who are pet guardians. We've had 36 protective custody animals. These are the ones where their person has either been taken in an ambulance, they've been taken to Riverbend, they've been taken to our local hospital. We hold on to the animal until they're able to go back home with their person. And then 121 transfers in. We do a lot of tradesies here in Oregon, so we have a big dog. Roseburg has a big dog. They need a different zip code to be seen. We do a lot of that. We also transfer in whenever we have room for other animals that are going to be in danger of being euthanized in another shelter. And that always starts in Oregon, although we help California when we can. Oops. Okay, so these are the animals that have left the shelter. So Baby Rue there in the picture, this little senior girl was abandoned in our parking lot. She was left in a Rubbermaid tote where they had actually created like a submarine tube to make sure she got air. She was left in her bed. She was obviously a cherished pet at some point, but she was abandoned in our parking lot, which really kind of shows the magnitude of what's going on for animals in our community. We were lucky because we were able to run her blood work. We were able to do significant medical, and then she was adopted by somebody who works in the veterinary field. So that's what you want for every animal that's going to be a medical one. So we've had this year 696 adoptions, 858 animals left our clinic, which is less than we brought in. So when an animal comes in for a clinic and they are deemed as either medical or the person seems to be suffering on ability to care for them, we will offer to take the animal in. So that's why you see less leaving than coming in. We've reunited 177 lost pets. Remember the slide before showed that we had brought in over 400. So obviously we're seeing a lot of animals that are not getting reclaimed, and a lot of this is kittens. You know, you have a stray cat and then she brings in her family. We've had 18 that have died in our care, and we've had 16 euthanasias. Half of those euthanasias were actually community-owned animals that we, at the end of life, we brought in to help them because the people were unable to access the service. Sometimes it means they can't drive to Veneta, sometimes it's a cost barrier, but we want to provide that service. And then we've transferred out 50 animals. We send out some dangerous dogs, go to a sanctuary that's in Florence, and then we also transfer out, like I was talking about the tradesies with other organizations. Okay, volunteers. So everything we do is driven by volunteers and donor dollars. And so last year, 19,000 volunteer hours, far and away the highest amount in Florence. They actually have me come speak to organizations about how to get volunteers. And I say, well, if you have kittens and puppies, it's really quite easy. But we have seen an increase in our volunteer support, which is incredible. We have people with us. This man holding the trash bag, the bottom picture, he's been with us for 30 years. He carved our dog walking trails that we still use. And he tried to back out of volunteering, and then I've roped him in now. He drives animals back and forth to the vet clinic for us. So, and he services our cars. So you just can't escape. Once you come in, you just don't leave. And this is where you guys come in. So what does it take to serve more animals? That picture on the left is our lobby. That is where people come in to access food. They come in because they need to surrender an animal. They come in to adopt. And this is a day when we were running a spay-neuter clinic. So everyone in that picture is a volunteer. All of those people are volunteers, and they are recovering the cats coming out of surgery. And then, of course, someone answering the phone, somebody doing data entry. So as a Band-Aid, while we're looking to expand our property and remodel our building, which is a 5-year project, we have this year bought this vet clinic that was for sale in Florence. The man that was veterinarian had been trying to sell it for years. He retired. We were able to get it for basically a steal. And this has enabled us to take our lobby back at the shelter and begin serving the community on the level we should. The surgeries are now done at this clinic. And so this is buying us some time while we look to update our current shelter. and you make this possible. So this is our shelter, and this was built in 1996. I was lucky to be out getting the mail one day with a puppy, and the rainbow came. So I've used this picture for years. But as you can see, this shelter is a 2-story shelter. Well, whoever thought that was a good idea in 1996 was not thinking it through, because our kittens live upstairs. We haul 40-pound bags of litter up and down the stairs every single day. The laundry all has to come downstairs, and anyone that's coming to our building in a wheelchair or with alter abilities is unable to go upstairs, so we're bringing the kittens down to them. It's really not a perfect situation. So the things that we have in mind for the property will double the capacity for dogs and cats. Cats will be tripled, dogs will be doubled. We have 15 kennels right now, and Lane County Animal Services wants to do a contract with us to service all the animals Mapleton and to the west. We were to the point of signing it, and they wanted us to agree to 3 kennels for stray dogs, 3 out of 15. We just couldn't do it. And so this is a big step towards how we're going to serve Mapleton and all of the areas that are kind of outside the immediate area. You guys know when an emergency call comes in Dexter, and then the next emergency call comes in Florence, what that looks like with one animal control officer. So our hope with this is that we'll be able to step in and really be a better bridge than we are right now. Also, ADA compliant public spaces. So all of the animals will live on one level, as they should. We'll have separate HVAC for each species. So this is something that's evolved as the science of sheltering has evolved. When you have kittens, you don't want them in the same HVAC system as your dogs, right? They have different illnesses, and you don't want those things spread. Enhanced quarantine areas. So the biggest problem in Florence, and I'm sure other areas, is ringworm. So kittens coming in with ringworm. One kitten with ringworm can shut down the entire situation for the season. So we can have kittens that are growing up in our shelter if we can't get them into foster when they have ringworm. And it's not a horrible situation, but it's one of those things that it's spread by hair, and when you're dealing with kittens, welcome to the world of ringworm. Humane Education Center. So my passion is teaching the youth how to be humane animal caretakers. And so when we have an area where we can provide camps, we have a better situation for our youth volunteers. We're going to really be able to change the game. We have a large percentage of youth volunteers already. I volunteer in the middle school and the high school with service clubs, and so we have those students as well as Boys and Girls Club. But we want to run a camp, and we want to be able to provide on-site education opportunities. We also need a real employee break room so that it does not have kittens in it at any time. Update our catio. We have an outside contained cat area that's incredible. It's the most magical place in the building. Our students go out there and read to the cats. It's great, but it needs to be updated. A dog training area. We have a certified dog trainer on staff. She just finished her program this year that we were able to sponsor for her, and we want to provide an area where we can teach the public how to raise their animals with positive reinforcement. So we get rid of fear, we get rid of pain and punishment, and we work towards anything that was a reward for the animal. And then obviously a meeting room, and then focus on environmental stewardship. So we want to make sure everything we do is going to leave a legacy of goodwill for the next generations that are going to come into our community. We are on a piece of property that only has one exit, and the exit goes to the river, which is where the tsunami inundation zone is. So, part of this will be putting tracks on the property so we can get out the back. Right now, our disaster preparedness plan with the tsunami is to grab cat carriers and let the dogs on leashes and run up the hill. And it's not a solid plan. So being able to put in more infrastructure with the road, that's going to also help it. So these are the things we want to do with the property that we have asked you all to sell to us for $500. As Kelly mentioned, I had originally offered $1 in complimentary kittens for everyone, and she has declined that offer. So I just want to...
And we overruled that.
Yeah, and this was one of our clinics this year, Spay-Palooza. This was the first big clinic that we did at our new property. We brought in 3 veterinarians, one from Portland, one from Bend, and one local one who worked with us. We saw 142 animals in 3 days. So this is what we are on track to do for the next few years while we build our medical center at the new property. And this dog here is a good example, Shelby. This is a dog that was scheduled to be euthanized by the owners because they could not find placement for her. She was south of Florence, living with 37 cats in a single wet trailer. and the people had to get rid of their animals or they were going to lose their housing, and they had already lost their children. And so she was scheduled to be euthanized that day. One of our board members on vacation got on Facebook, saw it. Next thing you know, I've got a Dalmatian living in my office. And this dog has been adopted and now is part of our senior pet program. So her adopter needs our help to keep the animal, and we've made that lifetime commitment. So this is just one good example of how community building works for the animals and the people that love them. And that is all, and thank you for having me.
Well done, very good, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for your time. Board, I want your comments, but we could go off here on a lot of them, on the pets and all that, but I warn you, we have an 11 o'clock time certain, so please be brief. Commissioner Farr, go ahead.
Thanks, and I will be very brief. We have staff waiting for their presentations, but I'm not sure what my wife Debbie and I did to our 3 sons, but they all adopt animals. But the only thing that I want to say is the PowerPoint that you've given to us, keep it around, let's use it often. You are a light for all animal care agencies. You really are. What you're doing today is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to come and visit you. We'll talk more
Please
then.
do.
Thank you. Commissioner Trigger.
Just reading through some of the materials, thank you. Kittens in the break room, I got to figure out what that is a metaphor for. I'm going to use that phrase, 'cause I love that. I've got a case of kittens in the break room, I think is what's happening right now. My mind is going in a million different directions. I've got kittens in the break room.
11 a.m. time certain.
I will just say, 11, we've got an hour.
Or 10 a.m., sorry.
I want to just appreciate your leadership. I know you are relatively, but not brand new to the organization, but clearly your vision, your focus, your fidelity to the mission comes through, and I really appreciate that. So I know this property will be under good care under your leadership, and on behalf of the many, many animals that can't speak directly, I will thank you. It's great. I'm really pleased to have this in front of us and to be able to be supportive.
Thank you.
Commissioner Buck.
Oh, we're being called. Okay. I'm very supportive. You know, I think I have had family members that volunteered at your Humane Society before you came around. So I'm familiar with the work and pleased to support the request.
Awesome, thank you. Vice Chair.
Yes, just real quickly, thank you. That was a great presentation. And I think the over 19,000 volunteer hours just screams Florence. I mean, Florence always shows up. They always show up, and it's very impressive. And, you know, it's one of the many reasons I'm proud to represent you guys over there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you for your passion. 8.66 acres for $500 a deal. But thank you, Kelly, for negotiating that contract, and thank you for stewarding that property so well. That volunteer hours equates to 483 40-hour weeks. I mean, for the public, that's an incredible amount of help. I can't believe that. I've never heard the term catio, but now I'm in my mind thinking of break room catio, thanks to Commissioner Trigger, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that information. But anyway, time as being what it is, I'm looking for a motion on this item. Vice Chair.
Yes, Chair. I move to gladly approve Order 25-12-0206 in the matter of approving the sale of real property located at 2840 Rhododendron Drive, Florence, to the Oregon Coast Humane Society for $500 by delegating authority to the county administrator to sign the conveyance documents.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair, seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the sale of the real property located on Rhododendron Drive, 2840 in Florence, to the Oregon Coast Humane Society in the amount of $500 and delegating the authority of the county administrator to sign the conveyance documents. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Gladly, aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Great presentation and well done. Love to see a follow-up of what happens in the future.
I will be back.
Okay, sounds good, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
A bark or a meow.
Yeah. Mr. Mokreis, I think I'm going to move the announcements. You're scheduled for the announcements, I'm going to move that back. And I would like to call our staff, Eve Gray, Health and Human Services Director, Dr. Jocelyn Warren, and I believe Rhonda Hatafi is here to give us our semi-annual report for the fall of 2025 on our health and human service items. If you guys are all available and willing, please come to the table and let's begin.
While we wait, Chair, I'd like to move we have more presentations like that last one.
With Aunt.
As long as you get all the free kittens, so.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic.
Chair Laval, Vice Chair Seneca, and Commissioners, thank you for having us today for the semi-annual Board of Health report. Today, we are bringing you a presentation that has been developed by Natalie Taylor. She leads our problem gambling prevention program. However, Natalie cannot be with us today, so I will be giving her presentation along with Natalie's collaborator, Rhonda Hatafi. Rhonda is a passionate community advocate and co-chair with Natalie of the GammaWare Coalition of Lane County. It's going to be hard to follow up the Coast Humane Society, but we'll do our best. While gambling is often viewed simply as a form of entertainment, its potential to develop into addiction and the broader social and economic impacts that can follow are far less understood and rarely discussed. Today, we'll share how gambling and gambling-related harms are showing up here in Lane County and why they matter. We'll start with data, as we like to do in public health. Then we'll provide the larger context and history about the decades of advocacy and prevention work that have made Lane County a leader in addressing gambling harm. We'll also look ahead to emerging trends and areas of concern as gambling continues to evolve in new and complex ways. And finally, we'll highlight the community efforts in Lane County to address gambling-related harms, from advocacy and treatment to prevention and education. Gambling is defined as risking something of value on an event with an uncertain outcome, with the hope of winning more. For many people, gambling is a social or recreational activity. They may set personal limits, gamble occasionally, and not experience lasting problems. Practicing responsible gambling can be a helpful protective factor, but it is not a guarantee against harm. Gambling products and environments are intentionally designed to be engaging and to encourage continued play, which means that anyone, regardless of age, background, or personal discipline, can be vulnerable to developing problems over time. Gambling addiction is not a matter of willpower or moral failing. It is a recognized behavioral health condition that affects the brain's motivation and decision-making systems, similar to substance use disorders. Unlike many other activities, gambling taps directly into the brain's reward system. Wins and near wins create powerful feelings of excitement and anticipation, while losses can trigger the urge to chase that next win, creating a cycle of events. This often leads people to spend more time and money than they intend or can afford. The cycle can lead to financial strain, stress, relationship breakdowns, mental health challenges such as anxiety or depression, increases in domestic violence, and even suicidal ideation. And the effects rarely stop with the individual. Families, children, and communities often feel the impact too. That's why we approach gambling with a public health lens, recognizing that the harms for those impacted can be profound and far-reaching. Gambling harm doesn't exist in isolation. It touches nearly every aspect of our lives: the economy, relationships and families, mental and physical health, criminal justice, and substance use, for example. The financial strain caused by gambling is often hidden, masked by shame, secrecy, or denial. Yet beneath the surface, these financial pressures can lead to housing instability and debt, which can in turn affect employment, family stress, and overall community well-being. We also see connections to mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, and suicide risk, as well as to physical health impacts such as chronic stress and sleep disruption. In some cases, gambling-related losses can contribute to criminal activity, and we know that co-occurring substance use is common among those experiencing gambling disorder. All this means that gambling harm is not a separate issue. It's part of the broader web of public health challenges we're already addressing. And there is opportunity to further integrate gambling harm prevention, whether it's in behavioral health, housing stability, youth prevention, or community safety. There are natural places of intersection where this topic belongs. By including gambling in those conversations, we can strengthen our prevention systems, fill critical gaps, and ultimately create healthier, more resilient communities. Furthermore, community education and outreach are essential components of this work. By informing and engaging the public, we can increase protective factors across the population and enhance awareness of the risks associated with gambling. Education empowers individuals and families to recognize the early signs of gambling-related harm, both in themselves and in others. When people understand where to turn for help, they are more likely to seek support before problems escalate. Through coordinated outreach, we can build a shared understanding that gambling harm is preventable, support is available, and recovery is possible. Currently, gambling disorder is the only officially recognized behavioral addiction, though others, such as video gaming disorder, may be added in the future as our understanding of addiction continues to evolve. A quick note on language. Much of the existing research and literature on this topic uses the term problem gambling, and I'll use that terminology when referring to specific studies or data sources. We also use the term gambling harm, which is the preferred language among individuals with lived experience. This term better reflects that the issue extends beyond an individual's behavior. Gambling possesses all the characteristics that raise concern from a public health perspective, particularly when it comes to youth exposure. These are sometimes referred to as the 5 A's for alarm: availability, accessibility, advertising, age, and acceptability. Today, gambling is widely and easily accessible, promoted through constant and often appealing advertising, and has become increasingly socially accepted and normalized in our culture. As a result, we're seeing a growing number of young people engaging in gambling activities, sometimes before they fully understand the risks involved and before their brains are fully developed. This underscores the importance of education, prevention, and responsible regulation to help minimize harm while supporting healthy community norms. When we look at Oregon's data, it becomes clear that gambling harm is a significant public health issue in our state. Oregon's rate of problem gambling is estimated to be nearly 4 times higher than the North American average. Identified risk factors for problem gambling include specific demographic characteristics, sports betting engagement, endorsement of misconceptions and stigma about gambling, frequent substance use, and poor health. About 9% of Oregonians are considered at moderate risk for developing gambling-related problems. These are people who may not yet meet the criteria for a gambling disorder, but who are already showing warning signs, things like chasing losses, gambling more often, or feeling stress about the money they've spent. Another 6% fall into the high-risk category, meaning they're likely already experiencing significant harm, financial, emotional, or relational. The availability of gambling varies widely from state to state. States like Hawaii and Utah have no legal gambling at all, while others, such as Nevada, have very high availability. Here in Oregon, we operate between those two ends. Individuals 18 and older have access to several forms of legal gambling, including traditional lottery games such as Powerball and Scratch-Its, charitable gaming such as bingo and raffles, as well as poker rooms and horse racing. For those 21 and older, additional options are available, including video lottery terminals, tribal casinos, and sports betting through DraftKings app. Gambling products and types in Oregon have expanded massively since the 80s when the Oregon Lottery began. This growth has brought significant economic benefits. Gambling revenues have provided vital funding for tribal communities, supported essential state programs through the Oregon Lottery, and contributed to education, parks, and other public services that benefit us all. In Oregon, video lottery terminals alone account for 69% of the $1.7 billion Oregon lottery operating revenue. At the same time, legal gambling has gone from an activity for which you would need to drive to one of the few racetracks in the state to something available at all times on our mobile devices. There are 355 licensed Oregon lottery retailers in Lane County. About half of these sell traditional lottery products only, and while the other half also have video lottery terminals. There are currently 874 video lottery terminals in Lane County, and they are found in places that have an Oregon liquor license, most commonly bars, restaurants, delis, and bowling alleys. We know that gambling addiction commonly co-occurs with substance use, so the presence of alcohol in gambling establishments can be a bidirectional contributing factor to harm. Lane County also has 1 tribal casino, 3 Rivers in Florence, and 2 poker rooms here in Eugene. There is also 24/7 access to mobile sports betting, such as on the DraftKings app. The work in the Gambling Harm Prevention Program often looks a bit different from that in areas such as overdose prevention or tobacco prevention. And that's largely because community awareness and readiness for change around gambling harm remain much lower. The work needs to build first awareness, understanding, and momentum within the community. To measure where we are, we use a tool called the Community Readiness Assessment, which involves structured interviews with local leaders across sectors. These interviews are scored across 6 dimensions, such as community knowledge of the issue, leadership support, and knowledge of existing efforts. When we conducted this assessment in Lane County in 2019, we found that overall readiness was very low. As you can see on the slide, most dimensions fell within the denial or resistance stage, with some showing little or no awareness of gambling harm as a local issue. These data are from the 2024 Oregon Student Health Survey. Nearly 1 in 5 sixth graders, children 11 or 12 years old, reported gambling in the past month. That number climbs to 1 in 4 eighth graders. These numbers show that gambling isn't an adults-only issue. For many young people, it's becoming a normal part of growing up, something they see at home, hear about from older friends, or encounter online through sports betting apps, fantasy leagues, loot boxes, TikTok videos of people gambling live, and video game skins. What's especially concerning is how early exposure increases risk. Similarly to other addictions and risky behaviors, the younger someone starts gambling, the more likely they are to develop a gambling disorder later in life. The 2024 Student Health Survey shows that both 6th and 8th graders are engaging in several types of gambling. Sports betting, sometimes on professional games through adult apps, but also by betting on their own school or recreational sports games. Games of skill, such as wagering on video game matches. Games of chance, such as dice, cards, or coin flips that can start the habit early. Lottery games, including scratch tickets and raffles, often provided by adults who may not realize the risk. And increasingly internet gambling, which includes the loot boxes and in-game purchases that mimic slot machine mechanics, fast, repetitive, and tied to real money or perceived value. What's important here is that gambling no longer is happening just at casinos or on betting apps. It's woven into the games, social media, and even sports culture that youth engage with every day. That means prevention also has to evolve with the culture. It's not simply keeping youth out of casinos, for example. We're talking about helping parents, teachers, and communities recognize the gambling-like activities that are already in kids' hands and the potential for harm. In May of this year, Natalie, whose presentation this is, conducted parents and youth focus groups on gambling activities and exposures, part of a project involving 4 other counties. She talked with students and parents at Cascade Middle School, and the conversations, she said, were incredibly insightful. The most striking takeaway was how much youth are noticing and talking about gambling and how little their parents are aware of it. Youth could quickly list how gambling shows up in their lives through ads, movies, video games, sports bets with friends, family trips to casinos, weekly scratch-its with grandma, and TikTok trends. Students shared that they are surrounded by gambling imagery and opportunities, but they aren't hearing clear messages about it from the adults around them. Gambling isn't covered in school health curricula, and unlike topics such as alcohol, reckless driving, or online safety, parents and guardians rarely bring it up at home. This silence leaves young people to make sense of gambling on their own, often with information shaped by peers, influencers, or advertising. During the focus groups, parents tended to be quieter, often acknowledging that they hadn't thought much about how their kids might be exposed to gambling. Many shared that it's already difficult to keep up with the rapid changes in technology and online trends that shape their children's lives. Parents expressed that they would welcome more support and guidance, things like conversation guides, discussion prompts, and family toolkits to help them talk about gambling in age-appropriate ways. They also emphasized that gambling risks should be included in school education alongside other health and safety topics so that youth are hearing consistent messages, both at home and in the classroom. In the spring of 2025, the larger prevention team, together with local partners, conducted a tobacco and alcohol retail assessment. As part of that effort, we also chose to look at Oregon lottery product placement and availability. One of the findings that stood out was that nearly half of the lottery retailers surveyed were displaying lottery products within 3 feet of youth-oriented items. Research shows that when alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, or gambling products are visible and placed near products that attract young people, such as snacks, toys, or school supplies, it increases youth exposure and helps normalize those behaviors. The image on the left shows a lottery ticket scanner positioned at eye level for a young child, directly above shelves filled with toys and candy. The image on the right is an example of a more responsible setup. Lottery materials placed between products geared toward an older crowd, newspapers and Werther's Originals. Small environmental choices like these make a real difference in how early and how often youth are exposed to gambling cues in everyday community spaces.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story and my passion of helping support others as they overcome the terrible effects of gambling-related harm. When I think about this journey that I never asked for or expected to be on, I'm both amazed by what we've accomplished and frustrated by what hasn't changed. By day, I'm a teacher shaping minds and nurturing growth in the classroom. I'm a devoted family woman, a passionate community member, an advocate, and as a daughter, wife, sister, mama, and Grammy, I lead with love. As an advocate, I share a powerful message of help and hope. And I do that to inspire change and connection in our community so that others do not have to feel alone and suffer the same pain that my family did. I'm the founder and president of Oregonians for Gambling Awareness Organization since 1996, and I'm nationally recognized as a leader in this field now. I speak because my best friend and brother Bobby had his voice silenced when he ended his life by suicide July 20th, 1995. He was unable to get help and support for his gambling addiction. This story is happening across our county. It's a hidden addiction with no outward or visible signs. We are inspired by the progress made with people more willing to talk about other addictions and mental health. Unfortunately, the awareness around gambling addiction is incredibly low in our community, leaving people alone in the shame and guilt and unaware of where to seek help. Not all stories end the way ours did. Just the same, the harm that it causes can be devastating. Although have been advocating and bringing awareness, gambling-related harm does not have the help and attention that it needs. My family and I had no idea that gambling could become an addiction, so we decided that other people probably didn't know that as well. We started Problem Gambling Awareness Day on Bobby's birthday, September 29th, the first recognized day in the country. In my sister's driveway, we celebrated his first birthday without him with balloon messages. We handed out 1,000 flyers in our community, and we invited the media to join us. It didn't go the way we thought it would. We were laughed at, we were mocked, and we were told that we probably shouldn't be telling people that he was a gambling addict and that he ended his life by suicide. We should probably be embarrassed and instead stay quiet. We didn't choose that. We choose to continue to speak out. We made homemade signs and put them out at local events. We created Oregonians for Gambling Awareness Organization. We helped build this Lane County Problem Gambling Advisory Committee in 2002. We sat in on many lottery commission meetings, helped change the lottery advertising, advocated for an age limit on social games, and we put Bobby's picture on local buses that ran for months. We have held rallies, days of action, and created Take a Break campaign to help bring awareness to this issue. While we have seen our messages help make changes over the last 30 years, we've also watched the landscape of gambling change dramatically. With the rapid expansion of gambling options comes higher rates of gambling harm and more impacted families in our community. The ripple effect that this addiction has is beyond the person struggling. My heart hurts for all the affected others who are unaware that their lives have just been changed forever. We have continued to submit a proclamation request with the governor every year since 1997, with it being granted every year but one. Through these 30 years, we have looked for new and effective ways to reach those who need to hear our message. Natalie and I started working together in 2021. This energized the work for both of us, and we're proud to share with you today some of our community-centered advocacy work. We rebranded our committee to GamAware Coalition of Lane County, and we began to bring our Take a Break toolkits free to the community shortly after. This is a new way to open doors, to have conversations, and to meet this community where they are. We're going to share more about this a little bit later. It's an incredible honor to share my story with you today. Thank you for listening.
So we now would like to highlight a few trends that we are seeing in the gambling world. In 2018, the Supreme Court overturned the federal ban on sports betting, opening the door for a massive nationwide expansion. If you've watched a sporting event recently, you've seen how common these ads have become. Betting is being marketed as part of the sports experience itself. Nationally, more than 95% of young adults report seeing at least one sports betting advertisement, and over 60% recall seeing promotions for in-play or live betting. This constant advertising normalizes gambling, lowers young people's perception of risk, and encourages early and risky engagement in betting. Among sports bettors, rates of gambling-related problems are at least twice as high as in the general gambling population, and the risks increase even more when betting occurs online. While the most bet on sports in Oregon are basketball, football, and baseball, number 4 might surprise you: Eastern European club-level table tennis. These matches run around the clock with new games every few minutes. That constant, fast-paced action keeps people betting and makes it built for addiction. Here in Oregon, gambling expansion shows up in lottery revenues. In 2022, the first year of the state's partnership with DraftKings, sports betting brought in $32 million. That jumped to $55 million in 2023, and then $75 million last year. That's more than double in just 2 years. The harm is growing just as fast. Treatment providers report a sharp rise in clients struggling with sports betting addiction, especially among young men. According to a national NCAA survey, 67% of college students living on campus are sports betting. 6% reported losing more than $500 in a single day of betting. And it's not just adults. In our youth focus groups, we've heard about middle and high school students placing bets using their parents' or siblings' DraftKings accounts, sometimes with permission, sometimes without. Students report teachers casually discussing bets during class, and in another Oregon county, a teacher was fired for sharing a DraftKings promo code with students. When we talk about youth gambling today, we can't separate it from video gaming. Many of the most popular games young people play are now incorporating gambling-like features, often without being labeled as gambling. Let's start with gambling within games like Roblox. Roblox hosts thousands of user-created games, and some of those include virtual casinos, slot machines, and roulette-style mini-games, where players use in-game currency to win prizes. Even if that currency can't always be directly exchanged for cash, it teaches the same reward patterns and risk behaviors that real gambling uses. Next, there's gambling mechanisms and imagery built directly into mainstream games. Think about flashing lights, spinning wheels, treasure chests, and jackpot sounds, all designed to trigger excitement and anticipation. These are the same psychological cues used in casinos and sports betting apps. For kids, these repeated exposures make gambling imagery feel normal, familiar, and fun. And then we have loot boxes, which are one of the fastest growing concerns. Loot boxes are digital grab bags. Players spend money for a chance to win a rare item, skin, or upgrade, but they don't know what they'll get. It's a direct parallel to slot machines. You pay, you spin, you hope for a prize. The random reward system keeps players coming back, and for some, it's the very first step on the path toward gambling behavior. Gambling is being built into the entertainment platforms that kids already use every day. What makes this particularly concerning is the vulnerability of developing brains. Adolescents and young adults are in a critical stage of brain development, especially in areas that govern impulse control, decision-making, and risk assessment. The brain's reward system is highly active during this period, making young people more sensitive to the thrill of winning and the anticipation of reward, yet less able to weigh long-term consequences. When gambling-like mechanisms are introduced during this formative stage, they can shape behavioral patterns and neural pathways that increase susceptibility to addictive behaviors later in life. In other words, exposure to these systems during youth doesn't just influence behavior, it can influence brain development itself. Here in Lane County, we're fortunate to have dedicated treatment options for individuals and families impacted by gambling harm. It's all funded by the state of Oregon and is available at no cost to the individual. These programs provide confidential, specialized support for anyone affected by gambling, whether it's the person struggling directly or a family member or loved one. More than half of those seeking help are self-referrals, which tells us that many individuals are finding their way to treatment on their own, but it also highlights an opportunity. We can do more to educate healthcare providers, counselors, and community partners to recognize the signs of gambling harm and to routinely screen for it where people are already receiving care. There is a high level of isolation, stigma, and hopelessness among people living with gambling disorder. 26% of gambling treatment clients here in Oregon report suicidal ideation. Gambling treatment remains an underutilized resource, one that has the potential to offer life-changing support for those who need it. By increasing awareness and referrals, we can help ensure that people struggling with gambling and their families know that help is available, effective, and close to home.
As we've seen, gambling and gaming are becoming a part of our daily lives for more and more people, including our youth. The good news is that Lane County isn't facing this challenge alone. We have a strong local partnership leading prevention efforts, the GamAware Coalition. I was a founding member of this coalition in 2002 when we were originally called the Problem Gambling Advisory Committee of Lane County, the first and still the only countywide gambling awareness committee in this state, in the country as well. Over the years, we have championed numerous projects and initiatives. Members have included researchers, teachers, affected others, industry members, gamblers in recovery, concerned community members, treatment providers, and more. With support from the Oregon Health Authority, we engage in youth prevention education by having them create artwork that was featured in calendars and videos distributed across the state. We have brought awareness campaigns to the community through ads on buses, radio, and successfully advocated for gambling-related questions to be added to the Healthy Teen Survey, which is now called the Student Health Survey. Throughout it all, Lane County Public Health has been a steadfast partner, providing administrative support, technical expertise, funding to sustain and strengthen the coalition's work. The commitment has ensured that gambling prevention remains visible and integrated part of local public health efforts. The GamAware Coalition is united by one goal: to raise awareness and reduce harm from gambling and video gaming addiction right here in our own community. What makes this coalition powerful is that it blends personal experience with professional expertise. Together, we are ensuring that Lane County has both data and human stories needed to make some lasting changes. One of GamAware Coalition's most innovative current projects is the Take a Break Toolkit initiative, which combines mental health promotion with gambling harm prevention. These toolkits are designed as sensory kits to help individuals regulate their emotions and bodies during stressful moments. Each kit includes calming and engaging items such as tea, journals, fidgets, earplugs, stickers, sour candy, coloring pages, acupressure rings, all kinds of things to stimulate the 5 senses and support emotional balance. Beyond providing stress relief items, each kit includes information on the signs of gambling and gaming addiction. The process of assembling and distributing the kits creates an opportunity to discuss brain science, coping skills, and self-regulation. In just a few minutes, meaningful conversations about mental health and gambling harm can begin, and recipients are often connected directly with resources. Because the general awareness about gambling addiction remains low, these kits have opened doors to new partnerships and outreach opportunities. To Take a Break toolkits have been distributed in schools, farmers markets, senior centers, churches, community events, and workplaces, reaching thousands of Lane County residents. The GammaWare Coalition of Lane County has distributed over 4,000 kits since this project began in 2021. This project has been recognized nationally, earning an award from the National Conference on Problem Gambling, but we're most proud of how the far-reaching idea has spread. Communities across Oregon and the country, actually, are now adapting the Take a Break toolkits to include their own gambling harm prevention messages, helping even more people take small, mindful steps toward mental wellness.
In addition to the Take a Break Toolkit project, we are leading several other important gambling harm prevention efforts here in Lane County. Those include presentations in several Springfield high schools on behavioral addictions, including gambling and video gaming. These sessions open conversations with students about risk, balance, and healthy coping skills. And we're developing new youth-focused materials based on the insights gathered from our recent parent and student focus groups. These will help families and schools talk about gambling in the same open, proactive way we already address other risky behaviors. We are also developing a potential policy for workplace gambling in the Health and Human Services Department with the goal of ensuring our own workplaces remain free from gambling distractions and potential harms. And looking ahead to this spring, Natalie's team is developing a public awareness campaign tied to March Madness, promoting safer gambling guidelines and encouraging healthy, informed choices for those who choose to bet. All these projects share one goal: to keep our community informed, safe, and supported as gambling continues to evolve. This presentation is part of the team's effort to build awareness of the harms of gambling addiction, and Natalie and her team welcome your continued partnership, including any feedback you may have. Thank you for your time today.
Wonderful, great presentation, both of you. Thank you very much. To the board, Commissioner Farr, please.
Thanks, Chair Lovell. You know, Dr. Warren, I'm thinking back 11 years ago when you first came here, and the thing that we were focusing on a lot then was smoking and not starting smoking. And look at the effective work that you did through your leadership. We became a leader in stopping kids from starting smoking, helping people quit smoking, et cetera. I view this as a very close parallel. And it's wonderful to see you as you approach your retirement, and congratulations on your wonderful 11 years with us, but to see you as a part of this, because it really is an issue. And it's an issue that we have tremendous obstacles to overcome. Gambling is addictive, clearly. It's demonstrated, it's proven. And unlike smoking, the worst effects of smoking, it takes a lot of years for it to happen. Gambling overnight can destroy an entire family, an entire existence immediately. We bet the farm and lost. You know, it's becoming more socially acceptable. And the thing that we're up against, I'm going to give you both an international example and a local example. Internationally, I follow English football. It's the best football on earth. There's no doubt about it. The entire world agrees with me on that. The two top leagues, the English Premier League and the English Championship. The Championship League is called the Sky Bet Championship League, which is the sports gambling book in Europe, and it goes. It's online, so you can do it here too. They actually embrace Sky Bet because it helps fund things. Here locally, we have the Oregon Lottery. Who's addicted to Oregon Lottery? You know, well, the Oregon Lottery says this: most people play lottery games for fun and entertainment. Okay. Savvy players decide in advance how much time and money they can afford to spend before they even buy a lottery ticket and put money into a game terminal. To keep things fun, they include lottery play in their entertainment budgets. I'll bet that's about this many people. To tell you the truth, you know, you got $20, you buy 20 lottery tickets, or however many you can get for $20. We're up against it, and Oregon Lottery has a robust advertising program, and they also advertise very strongly that we support gambling addiction programs, and they do. There's no question about it. They also, who else is addicted to Oregon lottery gambling? Well, Lane County is. 2.5% of all lottery receipts go to county economic programs. We're addicted to that. We wouldn't have these programs without that. It's an addiction that we have. That's how pervasive gambling is and how easy it is to get addicted on it, even if you don't know. Even if somebody you dearly love is, and you don't know. You wonder, well, what happened to all the money? Where's the car? You know, whatever it may be. So we're up against that. And I have a question for you. So I've given you the international and the local. It's pervasive. It's all around us. And it's something that we can do something about here in Lane County. We can be leaders here in Lane County, as we have been with smoking. I love that parallel because we can look back on how your work influenced an entire, this generation and future generations. The state of Oregon followed our work on smoking. Well, here we are with gambling. Let's pay the same kind of attention because it's a killer, it's pervasive, and it can affect people just immediately. My question that I'm not going to ask you, but here's what it would be if I asked you. Oregon Lottery, do you believe the positive results of the treatment programs provided by Oregon Lottery are enough to offset the negative results of problem gambling that occur based upon Oregon Lottery's marketing program? Don't answer that, please. I think I know the answer, but it's good that money is being spent on it. But, you know, it's like smoking. Let's just not start. And there's a lot of work ahead, Dr. Warren. Alas, we'll do it without your leadership after March 4th. But until then, thank you for being here, and thank you for working together on this pervasive problem. I bet you every single family is touched by it. Thank you.
Mr. Trigger.
I just bet you, didn't I?
Thank you.
It's pervasive.
It is pervasive. And it's interesting, Commissioner Farr, before I get into some of the notes I made, when you talk about smoking, and we've actually evolved that conversation into nicotine delivery, because we know now, and because the industry is intent on its own survival, so it keeps trying new ways to get particularly young people reliant, if not addicted. So it's sort of like that timeline slide that you had of like racetrack horse betting versus what we have now with so many different ways, is like smoking is to nicotine as gambling and betting was in the 30s to they are now. So many more fronts to work on. So to that point, I really appreciated the gambling defined at the start of your slide, risking something of value on an event with an uncertain outcome with the hope of winning more. That is a really useful definition, both because of its like its descriptiveness, and also its more than what? You can bet a nickel to win $1, you can bet $1,000 to win $1 million. It's that relative, but the uncertain outcome, and the outcome is completely out of the control of the person who's doing it. So that's really important, and it leads me to a couple of questions. One is the moderation. You know, what does gambling in moderation look like? It's not like with alcohol where we know there's body chemistry and we can send some rough guidelines out, body weight and gender to yay many ounces of alcohol at what proof. But gambling in moderation, it's so relative. And I'm sure the connections of somebody's economic condition and what they can afford, what their version of moderation is, or what their risk tolerance might be, but also what their desperation might be. Like, what is gambling in moderation? That's the question.
Well, of the two of us, I will tell you that Rhonda is the gambling expert here. So I will ask Rhonda if she would like to respond to that.
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Traeger. I appreciate that. One of the things that we talk about with addiction, and especially this one, is that the amount that you do it doesn't necessarily justify the word addiction with it, right? Someone can have a glass of wine every night with dinner, but not be an alcoholic. So the gambling is the same. So even though someone may gamble every day, if they gamble within their time and money limits, that's not considered an addict. It's the results. It's the action afterwards. So how is it affecting their life? How is it affecting the family, the people around them, their jobs, their daily things? So that's how we look at addiction, is the effects that it has beyond just the amount that they're doing. So that's how, when you do that with your like you said, financially, someone who makes $20,000 a year and gambles $1,000 a year is going to have a much higher rate of problem than someone who makes $200,000 a year and gambles $1,000 a year.
Great, thank you. And then another question is about, do we see generational patterns? Like, I love that the question is on the teen survey. Do we ask about any awareness that team might have about family members' gambling activity, the way we do about other risk factors?
Yes, thanks again for that question, Commissioner Traeger. I appreciate that. We do, I don't know that it's on the Healthy Teen Survey, but we do talk about that a lot when we go out into the community. And kids are, again, as it said in the study, they are seeing it in lots of different ways, and at home is one of them. But just with other addictions as well, you know that when it is something that is normalized in your household, it's an easier thing to get connected to and addicted to in the.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just really important to have that conversation that goes back to the moderation. People don't understand what their own version of moderation is if they don't have even the awareness of the language to talk about it. And since it's so embedded in like gaming and so on, a lot of kids are probably not thinking of that as gambling, right? So thank you. And finally, just thank you, Rhonda, for your work and for sharing your family story. I'm so sorry for the loss of your brother. I will share, I have a family member who also had many co-occurring addictions, but gambling became part of that. And this was in the late 80s and into the 90s. He's in recovery still to this day. But it is harder and harder because it is around us and everywhere and so normalized. It's not stigmatized to gamble, it's stigmatized to have a problem with gambling. And so it's just not, it's not talked about. So thank you for talking about it. I know it's hard and I really appreciate you doing so. Thank you. Thanks.
Commissioner Buck, please. Thank you. I've learned a lot today. I think right when you began speaking, actually, I was like, oh, I wish the schools had these presentations. And guess who's going to have a conversation with their child tonight? Which is the whole point of you bringing these topics up. Because I could see this, but formatted for children at an assembly or whatnot, you know, just to bring their awareness to it. Because you had mentioned Roblox, and this is like the biggest game that all kids and teens are on right now, right? Because it's like a game of games. Nothing like anything I did when I was younger. And the types of games, even though there's age limit brackets, I don't know actually how that relates to these particular gambling styled games. So parental involvement in what your kid is doing is just so important, especially when it's integral to video games. And seeing that this could be just kind of like a grooming effort really into a gambling style when they're older is really frightening as a parent. And how to control that while also being able to allow your kid the freedom of being able to play on their devices is really important. But even the awareness for them in some kind of school setting, I think would help them click, though, the next time they played. You had mentioned you do some of these in the Springfield schools. How is it that you're able to integrate in those schools, and how is it that we can integrate in other school systems?
Do you want to take that? There are plans to expand into other schools, especially incorporating the results from those focus groups and with the parents and the teens that the group has done. So that will be in the work plan for next year as expanding that.
And do you do it assembly style, or how do you actually functionally do it in the classroom?
Thank you for your question. I appreciate that. It is per classroom, and it's teacher request. So it's been something that's been really difficult to get into. Years ago, we did more with our school systems around gambling, and then there was kind of a lull where we weren't able to get back in, and it's kind of a hard one to break into. Teachers are very overwhelmed already with what they're expected to teach, and so bringing in another new subject was a little bit difficult. But I think we're in an area now, and with a comparison to smoking, where teachers are also seeing the effects of it and understanding the importance of having it in the classrooms. And so Natalie has created an incredible slide presentation as far as, and the way she presents it as well is just impactful. And I think it does deserve to be in every classroom, high school, middle school for sure. I do have a 5-year-old who tried to get his mom's credit card so he could buy skins on his Roblox account. They know what it is, they understand what it is, and I think the younger we start, the better it's going to be. So we're really looking forward to getting into more schools. We've done a few schools in the area, but it is by teacher request.
Thank you for that. I think those one-on-one classrooms, although they're really intimate, is not as many students as once that can hear the information. So it'd be interesting if they put it into a health curriculum, like a mental health curriculum when they get there. Knowing that teachers obviously have a lot of things that they're obligated to teach. And so how do you integrate it with something that's already on their curriculum that's necessary to teach, and have the extra time to talk about the subject with the students. Thank you very much.
Vice Chair.
Yeah. Maybe you could put it in the finance class since they don't balance checkbooks anymore. Thank you, Commissioner Buck. That's exactly the line I was going down with the getting to the kids. How do the teachers know about this program so they can request it?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate that. We have sent out things through the school districts for years, giving them information as we have. Again, we have done, like Willamette High School is just now looking into doing it through a health program. We did have some social study teachers that brought it in. So it's just a matter of getting the word out there, and being out in the community is how she got connected with Springfield High School. They came to one of our events, they made their little kit, and they said, how do I get this in my school? So that's, part of our outreach is doing these and getting our community involved that way. So we would love to be in more schools. And I think, can I just add to that too? We do need to get it to the students, 100%. I agree with that, but we also need to get it to the parents. The parents really need to be involved in this and understand more about it so that we can work, together. So we're always happy to do like an evening group meetings with parents and students as well. So that's something that we're looking into as well.
Well, yeah, as we were talking about this, I was thinking, as you go into Springfield, I have a feeling this could lead to some awkward conversations when they do get home. They see about the gambling, because as pretty much everybody on here has said, it's become more socially acceptable, and that's a huge factor. And I mentioned earlier, I represent Florence, so we have a lot of our events in the casino there, and you walk through and it's nothing for someone to be laughing about losing $100, and I'm thinking that would drive me nuts. I worked so hard for that $100, but if you were looking for somebody, not looking for somebody, but how would you identify somebody that is addicted to gambling? I mean, it's not like drugs or alcohol where there's indicators and behaviors. I mean, I'm sure there's indicators and behaviors, but not as far as how that person is behaving right at that point. What do you look for?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question, because one of the things that we talk about with gambling addiction is it's hidden. People are doing it. I was just talking yesterday with Jocelyn. They can look you in the eye and give you a straight answer that is a lie, that you have no idea. But there are signs that we look for. We look for signs of people who are withdrawing from family, people who are not spending quality time at their job, doing the job that they've been paid to do, people who maybe are absent a lot more, people who are struggling with finances, like, can I borrow $20 from you or $40 over here? So people who are doing that, maybe getting rid of items, selling items that they have at home. So there's a lot of little warning signs, but the most important thing, I think, is just the conversation. And if it is something that you're concerned about, if you're seeing your finances disappear, saying, I just had this thought that maybe there's a gambling problem here. Is that something that you're struggling with? So it's just conversations. It's really important to just be able to be honest and say, I'm here, I know, and we can do this together.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Rhonda.
Rhonda, Dr. Warren, thank you so much for the presentation. Like Commissioner Buck said, I learned a lot as well. I think I learned a lot when I was in the 4th grade too, when I lost my favorite marble on a bet. I have yet to buy a lottery ticket. I think that's the wound that we bear. But I think also too, Rhonda, your story, I want to acknowledge you too for the loss of your brother too. I mean, suicide in a family is a wound that never heals. Some of us know that very personally, myself included. So I want to thank you for taking something of tragedy and turning it into something of triumph. It was been said to me when we went through that too, is that you've been through the fire, but you don't smell like smoke. So I want to congratulate you on turning this tragedy into some triumph. So the thing that I have that I walk away from the statistics is when you fired up the statistic there that we are 3.75% more likely in Lane County to be addicted to gambling, but yet on the slides after that, we have some of the only programs that the state and the nation has. And I'm just wondering, if we have these preventative measures in place that no other county or state has, why are we still four times more likely to be gamblers? What's up with Lane County? If you can add to that, that'd be great, but you might not have enough time.
I was going to say, I am going to floor that and just say Natalie would be a great person to connect with that. There's things in this county with the casino, having a casino in our county increases the rate of addiction. Just that in itself, and just the options that we have available. Those 5 A's are true and honest, and you can't look out your window without seeing 5 different places that you can spend your money on Oregon Lottery. And so, and again, or just having a college program that is powerful like Oregon's, that increases sports betting as well. So there's a lot of different reasons, but Natalie would probably have a better answer for you.
Lane County or Oregon? It was statewide. Was it Lane County or was it Oregon? Is 3.75 times more.
I think that was Oregon. I can look back.
Oregon? I thought Oregon said
It's Oregon has a lot more availability of gambling opportunities than many other states.
All right, well.
So we talked about that a little bit yesterday in our discussion. So although we are not the most opportunity, in terms of states, we are on the end of having greater opportunity than most states.
Okay, all right, let's continue to work on that. Again, thank you for your presentation and your diligence and your perseverance and all what you do. I appreciate you very much. Thank you again.
Chair, may I just add one quick item? And that
Yes,
is,
please.
Mr. Seneca, you are on a school board. And I think school boards, you talked about while I'm at high school having the health program. I'll be having dinner tonight with the immediate past chair of the Bethel School Board. So I'm proud of that particular point. But school boards are a good place for it to begin as far as the education process is concerned.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah, about that. We'll be in touch.
Great, thank you again. Well, we have 8 minutes before our 11 o'clock time certain. Mr. Morkreisky, could you squeeze announcements in that time?
Yeah, Chair, thank you, Commissioners, and I just had, I think, one thing that I wanted to share with you. We've talked a lot about our strategic plan. We spent over the past year developing a strategic plan from 2025 to 2027. A lot of work went into that. We did a lot of outreach in the community, a lot of engagement with our employees, several work sessions with commissioners. I would argue in the time that I've been with Lane County, this is the best version of our strategic plan that we've had. It's really outstanding work.
How do I get one of those?
Yes, and so I wanted to share this because we did print, and it's on our website. You can go to lanecountyor.gov. and search strategic plan. We have a page with all the information. This one-page document is on there, and it's really nice. I don't know that you can see it on the screen. I'm trying to point it to the camera there. It looks like that, but it gives you an overview of our mission, Lane County's mission. We improve lives. Very simple, 3 words, focused very much on who we are and what we're intending to do. Our vision, Lane County is a thriving community where everyone can live, work, and play. Really love that. Those are updated versions, so we made some changes and really created, I think, some clarity and simplicity there. We have our core behaviors: passion, serve, drive to connect, focus on solutions, our strategic lenses, and then the boards for priority areas of safe and healthy county, vibrant communities, robust infrastructure, our people, and organizational health. So this is a really good high-level overview of the strategic plan, and then, of course, we have the detailed version. These were printed, so if anyone's interested in these, we have these for commissioners and folks who are interested. Nice, and this is also available on the website. This gives the detail, so if you want to get into the detail of the specific initiatives and action items, and there's some cool pictures from ribbon cuttings and projects and different events in the community. So I just wanted to call this out. Appreciate Jeff Kincaid, and in particular, from county administration, who led this effort, and all of our teams both in county admin and all of our departments, and the board's engagement and work on this effort. Really proud and pleased with this work. Now we have to go do it. So this is what we say we're going to do, who we are, and what we're going to do, and now we have to go execute on this. But it's a good reminder, so I just encourage it. I plan to carry this around with me. We made some laminated versions for commissioners to carry around, because this is only as valuable as the extent to which we use it in our decisions, right? When we're reflecting back and thinking on when the board is making assignments, you want to say, let's go do this thing. How does it align with the things we've already said, you've said, that are your top priorities? If we're going to add something new, are we acknowledging that we're not going to be able to do other things because we're taking something else on? So really important, and appreciate, again, the board's commitment to this, because particularly with the limited resources that we have in Lane County and the declining resources that we're seeing from reductions in federal and state funding and the artificially low permanent property tax rate that we have here in Lane County, we have to be focused and strategic about our work. Otherwise, we're just going to sort of run in a bunch of different directions without the resources to do it all. We need to remain focused on the things that are most important to our community and that you all decide on behalf of the community. So that was I just wanted to call that out. I'm happy if there are questions about other things happening. We have a busy next few weeks between today, next week, and the week after, December 16th. A lot of items. We'll have a work session with the board on our budget on December, I want to make sure I get this right, December 16th. Yeah, Tuesday, December 16th in the afternoon. And so we'll have all of our directors and elected officials there, and looking forward to that time. You're going to hear from the sheriff and the district attorney over the next couple weeks on their budgets and their needs. And the thing maybe just trying to eat a little time, but I'll leave a couple minutes for if there are questions. I want to just reiterate, as we talk about our budget, there are these two fundamental things that we're talking about that overlap each other, but it's important that we not conflate them. We're dealing with a problem in Lane County that all cities and counties are dealing with across the country, mostly. Our expenses growing faster than our revenues, particularly here in Oregon, where we have caps on property taxes. Our revenues tend to grow, particularly in the general fund, 3 to 4% each year, but our expenses are growing 5, 6, 7, 8%. That is the gap in our budget. That's a common problem that, particularly through inflationary times, post-pandemic, that governments are facing. Our revenues not keeping pace with our expenses, because we have limitations on how we can adjust revenues, unlike a private company where you can adjust prices and things like that. We don't have that ability, and so we really have to look at our expenses and how do we reduce expenses. So that's the issue. That problem one is the consistent problem most governments are facing, and we face every year in our annual budget process, and we'll talk primarily about on the 16th. The other problem financially that Lane County has that is unique to Lane County is this artificially low permanent property tax rate. You know, we compare ourselves to Marion and Washington and Clackamas and Deschutes and Jackson in terms of our size and urban areas and rural areas, but we don't have close to the permanent property tax rate that they do because we always relied on federal timber funding. So this issue of underfunding of core services, particularly in the public safety arena, as well as our inability to subsidize with the general fund other areas like public health and welfare and general government services like assessment and taxation, and elections and other things. And because the state has divested in those areas, that has created this really underfunding of services. So those two things together create a real problem for Lane County. I just wanted to call that out as we sort of move into the end of the year and beginning of next year, where we'll talk more about our budget. So a couple minutes for questions, if you have any. Otherwise, we can move to your 11 o'clock.
Well done, thank you. The board, anyone? All right, thank you, Ms. Mrokowski, very much. Seeing none, we have an 11 o'clock time certain, which we are within 60 seconds of. It's our Public Works item, 8A, work session and initiation request, update on the City of Eugene Urban Growth Strategies Project. And with us, we have a team of experts assembling themselves toward the front, led by Jared Bowder, the Senior Planner of Lane County, and Terry Harding, the City of Eugene. So please, whenever you're ready, please start. Oh, you get the high spot there, huh, Jared? Good for you.
Different today.
There you go.
Jared, you wanna take my seat? Whatever you're most. Yes.
I've never thought about this, Chair.
Promote him to county administrator.
Looks good, Jared.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for the photo.
You're welcome.
So yeah, good morning.
Close.
And we're live. Good morning, Commissioners. Today, the City of Eugene's project management team will provide the board with an update on the Urban Growth Strategies project. Today, I'm joined with Alyssa Hunter, Eugene's planning director, Terry Harding, principal planner, and Rebecca Gershow, senior planner with the City of Eugene. The board's also being asked to initiate the formal adoption process for minor text amendments to Lane County's Urban Transition Area Land Use Code as a part of the City of Eugene's 2026 Urban Growth Strategies adoption process. By making a motion today to initiate the code amendment process, the board is not inferring support for the amendments, and the initiation serves to formally commence the public process, which allows the Lane County Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners to consider the merits of the amendments. The adoption package and the Urban Transition Area Code amendments are laid out in Attachment A of Eugene's staff memo, and I'll turn it over to the city team for the presentation.
Thank you, Jared. As Jared mentioned, my name is Alyssa Hunter, and I am the city's planning director, and we're excited to be here today to provide you with an update on the Urban Growth Strategies project. We were last here, I believe, in March, and so we'll be letting you know what we've been up to since then and what's coming up next. So here's our agenda for today. Again, we're going to give you a background of what's included in Urban Growth Strategies, because I imagine you've had a lot of meetings on a whole lot of other topics since we were last here. So a project overview, we'll be providing community engagement highlights, giving you an update on the policy development work, and then we'll highlight a new process for housing planning in Oregon, including the types of actions that we're looking at taking to meet our significant housing needs. We'll finish by previewing the topics that we're planning to bring to you over the next couple of years, and including going into detail on the upcoming adoption package that will commence next year. And then finally, as Jared mentioned, requesting your initiation on the county's Urban Transition Area Code portion of the work. All right, just by way of background, what is Urban Growth Strategies? Well, this project is identifying the tools, actions, and policies and land needed for the next 20 years to support living wage jobs and housing that everyone can afford within Eugene's urban growth boundary. So this builds off years of planning and community engagement through our Envision Eugene work, and the project will be evaluating the need for housing, jobs, parks, infrastructures, and schools, as well as tools that can help Eugene grow more efficiently. The work will result in studies of what land is available in Eugene, updates to our Envision Eugene comprehensive plan and our land use regulations. We'll have a new land use designation map and an evaluation of whether there is a need to expand the urban growth boundary. And our initial indicators say that there will be. Just real quick, to guide this work, the Urban Growth Strategies project team has established 6 project goals. They cover planning for all income levels, facilitating more housing and fair housing outcomes, supporting data-informed policy decisions about urban growth. They are also to provide meaningful community engagement opportunities, to center the voices and experiences of people from underserved communities, and as always, to comply with relevant state laws, of which there are many that guide this process. In terms of project phases, we've broken it into 4. The first is community engagement, which honestly runs the entire process. It's to identify the needs and priorities of community members for housing, jobs, and access to community assets. The other phase is policy development, which is to integrate the results of the community engagement and technical analysis to create and update the policies guiding land use planning in Eugene. Housing and job actions, which we'll focus a bit on today, which is to take actions to address our identified needs, specifically related to housing production, affordability, and choice. And then finally, the land supply studies, and this is a technical analysis of land needed for our jobs and housing and other urban uses such as parks, schools, and infrastructure. So in your packet, there's a complete timeline as attachment B. It's pretty long and busy, but we want to break down a little bit of what's coming. As you can see, some of the growth planning efforts are already underway here in 2025 with our downtown core housing initiative, as well as ongoing annexations and infrastructure projects. Focusing in on 2026 and 2027 adoption packages. These will each have policy and housing and jobs action components as shown on the slide. The bold text is the work that will make up the most of the county adoption package. In 2027, we'll be completing our land supply studies that will allow us to begin analyzing potential UGB expansion areas. From 2028 to 35, we will implement our state-required housing production strategy, which will be about more actions we can take to facilitate production of housing. And then by 2030, we'll bring in any needed UGB expansion through the local adoption process. And again, the county will be involved in that. And I'm going to hand it off to Terry Harding.
Thank you, Alyssa. Is my mic working? Yeah. Okay, we're going to do questions at the end, if that's all right with you all. This section of the presentation will just give you a peek at how we've been engaging with the community over the past 2 years. Our community engagement plan, which was approved by the Eugene Planning Commission, includes a variety of integrated tactics and activities, both general in nature and focused to specific communities. General outreach includes things like open houses and surveys, public meetings, and website and email communications. Focused activities include things like our community advisory panel, listening sessions, working group meetings, and tabling at cultural events. We've completed our first phase of community engagement, which spanned the past 2 years and engaged with over 1,200 people. We'll continue our engagement efforts over the remainder of the project and focus our engagement efforts on reaching people who will be most impacted by potential changes of the Urban Growth Strategies project. Our next steps for engagement include the formal public hearing process for the adoption package we're discussing with you today. Over the past year, planning staff has attended 28 in-person events and engaged with almost 400 people. This year's focused engagement efforts allowed us to have deeper conversations with the community through the Community Advisory Panel, which is a 12-member panel of diverse community members. The Youth Advisory Council, which is a 20-plus member council composed of high school-aged community members from across Eugene. City boards and commissions, including the Sustainability Commission, Active Transportation Committee, Eugene and Lane County Planning Commissions, and the City Council. And community events and presentations like Eugene Pride and the annual Neighborhoods Conference. Our staff use what we learn from the community to inform our recommendations on policies and housing and jobs actions. Next, we have some information on our policy development phase with Rebecca.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Commissioners. Rebecca Gershow, Senior Planner, City of Eugene. I am going to talk about the work underway on the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan. Historically, as you know, Eugene, Springfield, and Lane County have shared a regional comprehensive plan known as the Metro Plan. Over time, Eugene and Springfield have also been developing our own local comprehensive plans to provide land use policy direction within our separate UGBs. Because of the work involved in moving from one comprehensive plan to another, the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan is being developed in 3 phases. The first phase was adopted with Eugene's UGB in 2017, and we're working on the phase 2 portion now. Phase 2 is scheduled for completion in 2026 and 2027 as part of the UGS Urban Growth Strategies adoption packages. We're developing 6 new chapters for the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan on community engagement, compact development and urban design, housing, community health, land use, and our land use designation map, and public facilities and services, which includes our Eugene Public Facilities Plan. Using what we've learned from extensive community engagement and research, staff have drafted goals and policies for these chapters. Adoption of the first 5 chapters shown here are scheduled for 2026, with the Public Facilities and Services chapter and the Eugene Public Facilities Plan scheduled for 2027. I'm going to now focus a little bit on our land use map, also called the Parcel-Specific Land Use Designation Map, which is the focus of the land use chapter in the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan. The land use map depicts the long-term vision for properties within Eugene's urban growth boundary. Because the Metro Plan diagram shown here, a snippet on the left of the screen, because it's not property specific, it creates uncertainty for property owners, developers, and staff, and ultimately leads to more time and cost for development. Eugene's land use map will replace the Metro Plan diagram for those areas inside Eugene's urban growth boundary, very similar to the process recently adopted by City of Springfield and the county. This is a modernization project. It puts the map in GIS. It will be interactive, accurate, and accessible to the public. The draft map is available now for review on the city's project webpage. This past winter and spring, we published draft comprehensive plan goals and policies for the 5 new chapters that will be included in the 2026 adoption package. Through a wide variety of engagement opportunities that Terry talked about, well, some of which Terry talked about, we received over 400 specific comments on these draft goals and policies. This fall, we've been incorporating that input, and we're in the process of developing hearings-ready chapters for your review, which will provide policy support for our urban growth strategies work. The memo in your packet contains links to the draft goals and policies if you're interested in previewing those. With our limited time today, I wanted to highlight one policy concept on centers and key corridors included in Chapter 2, Compact Development. Centers and key corridors are a strategy for building a more compact city. Chapter 2 includes draft policies that focus future growth and investment in existing and future centers to support higher intensity mixed-use development and increase access to essential goods and services. Centers range in size and activity level and are designed to be convenient and climate-friendly, bringing goods and services closer to people's doorsteps. They're envisioned to be connected by key corridors and with high-quality infrastructure for people who walk, bike, and ride the bus. The draft illustrative map on the slide shows proposed centers and key corridors throughout Eugene, including our 2 proposed climate-friendly areas. Based on these policies, staff are proposing a suite of actions related to encouraging compact development in centers and key corridors with a mix of housing, jobs, and services. And now I will hand it back off to Terry to talk a little bit more about housing and jobs actions.
Thank you. Just to keep y'all on your toes, we're switching speakers a bunch. As Rebecca alluded to, the next phase of our work is to take actions to address our identified needs for both housing and jobs, but especially related to housing, production, affordability, and choice. We're focusing on supporting housing development because of recent changes to state law and rules and some upcoming deadlines for our planning work. But we recognize that it is important to plan for all urban land uses together, so our actions will also support future jobs development. Okay, we have shared with you previously about the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis back in March, but we know more now, and we have some information that bears repeating because it's really directing how we're planning our housing actions. The ONA, or Oregon Housing Needs Analysis, significantly changes how cities plan for future housing needs within the urban growth boundary. Rather than planning only for population growth, we'll now also account for decades of housing underproduction, housing for people experiencing homelessness, and other factors. Using the 2025 numbers, we know that Eugene will need to support the production of more than 26,000 new dwelling units over the next 20 years. To meet this housing need, Eugene needs to produce 70% more units annually for the next 10 years as compared to the last 10 years. We also expect the next few years to bring a more challenging market environment with rising costs, interest rates, and shifting demands, which makes this an even steeper hill to climb. Using data from our growth monitoring program, we know that Eugene saw an average of 965 new units per year over the last decade. And of those, about 100 each year were subsidized affordable housing. To meet our new housing need, Eugene needs to see closer to 1,600 new units each year for the next decade, including 700 every year that are affordable to households with the lowest incomes. To look at it another way, this graph using growth monitoring data shows net new dwellings from 2013 through 2024. The purple line shows our currently adopted need, planning for 755 new units annually. The blue line shows our average production since 2013, that 965 units that I mentioned. And at the top in green is our new housing need, based on the 2025 ONA. Finally, based on the first 6 months of 2025 data, here's our estimated production for this year, which looks like it will be down significantly from our past 10-year average. So that's a lot of data, but the bottom line is that we have an immense need for housing while simultaneously seeing increasing challenging market conditions, declining federal resources, and the funding we do have is not going as far. So while the new ONA approach is more reflective of our true need, it certainly highlights the challenge ahead. One more chart to try to explain this. We're also now required to meet our housing need, not just through overall production, but by bins of affordability. The state will require that we demonstrate we're taking action in some way to meet these specific affordability needs. This chart breaks down those new dwellings into affordability bins based on area median income. On the far left are new units needed for households with the lowest incomes. The bars in green are units needed for households making less than 80% of the median income, typically a level of affordability that can only be provided through subsidized affordable housing. We like to say this is the bean counting step. We must demonstrate how we'll accommodate our 20-year need through our existing land capacity within the current UGB on vacant and partially vacant land, as well as through redevelopment. On new capacity within our current UGB by taking actions to increase the expected capacity of new development. And finally, our remaining need will be accommodated through a UGB expansion. This process is sequential, as required by state law. I've outlined in black the step of finding new capacity within our UGB, which I'll talk about next. The 2026 and 2027 packages of jobs and housing actions generally fall into 4 priority areas: increasing our capacity for housing and reducing regulatory barriers for both housing and jobs development, for example, through land use code changes or incentive programs; encouraging compact development for both jobs and housing in and around mixed-use centers. And some of the actions we'll propose are true land use efficiency measures that we can quantify the impact they'll have on our current land supply. Others are actions that reduce barriers or costs, but may not be easily quantified. You do have in your packet a summary of all of these actions that provides more detail. And I'd like to note that this list is comprised of actions to be taken by the city alone, but we share them in the spirit of collaboration in our complementary roles in solving the housing and jobs challenges for our region into the future. So to clarify, those aren't actions the county would need to adopt, but they're ones that you might be interested that the city is taking. The proposed list of housing actions include to allow micro-village housing as a new housing type in our land use code, exploring a program to allow developers to defer their systems development charges, or SDCs, updating the zoning and land use designations for the Royal Avenue Nodal Development Area in West Eugene, moving forward with several strategies to encourage more voluntary annexation into the city, increasing average residential densities in our low-density residential areas, further adjusting density standards in other areas based on the results of our land supply studies that'll be done next year, making site-specific zoning or designation changes to unlock more development potential, and reviewing our land use code to remove or reduce regulatory barriers to housing development, and exploring new or expanded financial incentives. So each of these actions could support dozens to hundreds of units. Some actions are focused on a specific income bracket or housing type, and others will impact housing across the board. Part of the land supply study work will be to quantify the impact of each action to the best of our ability. So that's the next step. You will get numbers. For compact development, we're proposing 2 big actions that both encompass several components and implementation steps. They are to modernize our compact development overlay zones and encourage compact development in centers and key corridors that Rebecca talked about. For jobs actions, we need to provide land for both housing and jobs, as I said previously, so that Eugene's residents and people who work in Eugene as the regional employment center have those opportunities. The 3 main job actions we're proposing include reviewing and enhancing our employment zones, making some site-specific zone changes, and the land use code updates. Okay, after all of that is complete, we will be looking at our urban growth boundary. We're assuming that after meeting some of those needs inside the UGB, we'll also need to expand it. When considering where to expand, we'll first look to our urban reserve areas, which you all adopted a couple of years ago, shown in orange on the map. These areas were co-adopted by Eugene and Lane County in the spring of 2023. Urban reserves are county lands identified for future city urbanization. And through this process, we'll identify which area or areas best meet the remaining need. But generally, we would consider areas closest to the urban growth boundary first. As you all know, this is a very prescriptive state-directed process. And the good news is that state rules are being updated right now and hopefully will help us be more efficient in our expansion analysis. And we've already done a lot of pre-planning when we were working on urban reserves. Okay, to close out our presentation, we're going to go back to Rebecca to outline the next steps and topics we expect to bring forth over the next several months.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Terry. We're starting with our 3 different adoption packages that we're looking to bring to the city and the county over the next 5 years. So this is similar to the timeline Alyssa shared with you in the beginning of the presentation, but we're just focusing in. So the text in black are the joint city-county adoption items, and those that are in gray are for inside the city limits and will need only city adoption. So in 2026, we expect to bring forward the first adoption package, which will include the 5 new comprehensive plan chapters, the land use map, and a first round of housing and jobs actions focused on reducing known regulatory barriers to housing production or to increase the capacity of our current land supply. In 2027, we'll bring forward a second adoption package, which will include our residential and employment land supply studies, which are the basis of our UGB expansion analysis, the Public Facilities and Services chapter of the comprehensive plan that also includes the Eugene Public Facilities Plan, as well as more housing and jobs actions and our state-directed housing production strategy. During this time, we'll also be working on the steps needed for UGB expansion in order to bring proposed expansion areas to the city and county for adoption by 2030. This slide focuses on those items we will be bringing to the county next year for adoption. Our attachment A, the summary of the 2026 adoption package components, it's page 161 of your packet, includes the full detail on the 2026 adoption package. On this slide, we're focusing only on the items needed for joint adoption and county-only adoption. The City Council, at its November 24th meeting, just initiated the city-only and joint adoption amendments. Those amendments needing joint adoption include new Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan chapters and the land use designation map, and clarifying amendments to the Metro Plan and refinement plans. The Lane County Urban Transition Area, or UTA, land use code is for the area outside of the city limits but inside the urban growth boundary. This is the county's code which the city administers, and because of that, amendments to the UTA code are adopted by the county only. We expect them to include replacing references to the Metro Plan diagram with the land use designation map, and other updates to align with the amended Metro Plan and Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan. And also some minor amendments to comply with state law requirements, including requirements related to daycare siting and development of housing. Next steps for urban growth strategies includes work sessions with both the Lane County and Eugene Planning Commissions. The Lane County Planning Commission meeting on December 16th. We will be presenting a similar update as to you all today, except for the initiation requests. We will be continuing to refine proposed policies and actions for your consideration. We'll be compiling the adoption package, and we expect to bring the joint public hearing process back to decision makers in the spring. Today, after questions and discussion, we're asking the Lane County Board of Commissioners to initiate the formal adoption process for amendments to the Lane County Urban Transition Area Land Use Code as part of the City of Eugene's 2026 Urban Growth Strategies adoption process, as described in attachment A for item 8A on page 161 of your packet. As noted previously, initiation of such amendments does not infer board support of the amendments, but rather it begins the public process through which the Lane County Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners will consider the merits of the amendments. And with that, thank you for listening, and we welcome any questions and conversation.
All right, great. Thank you very much. That was a great team effort. Appreciate that very much. Commissioner Farr, go ahead, please.
Thank you. You know, I'm looking around the room to see who remembers further back than I do. Nobody. It's hard to believe that I started as Eugene City Councilor in 1995 and what the housing landscape was then. I remember I took a tour around Eugene with Abe Farkas and Richie Weinman looking at available places to build. To land bank at the time is what we were looking at, but where do we build inside the UGB? And even then, it was pretty limited, the spaces that we had to build inside the UGB, until we became a little bit more focused on compact and going up a little bit higher and making lots smaller. We can get into that a little bit later. I have 3 compliments and a criticism. The compliments far outweigh the criticism, I'll warn you. The packet that you've put together, which is available for public scrutiny, for anybody listening, anybody watching, and for posterity, is wonderful. It may, in fact, be the best packet I've ever seen in my years sitting here at the podium, because your entire presentation is contained in the package, and also in-depth analysis of each step of your presentation is all right there. So I don't need to ask questions. All I need to do is read the packet. And as we begin the process, and by the way, I'm in favor of the motion that will come later in the meeting, as we begin the process, working together to refine it and make it the best possible process for the people that we serve, that's what it's all about. I love the packet. The second is the evolution, the second compliment is the evolution of the Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan. I first started on Envision Eugene 2009-ish, when we had the big group, big circle group. Terry, you probably remember that. And it kind of winnowed down. And in 2012, when I left the city council, we were still working on it. So it took a long time. But what you're adding are new chapters. As new rules evolve, and we can talk about, as we sit here, good news is that the state rules are being updated as we sit here. As the state rules evolve, then we can evolve our Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan and make it more adaptive to the needs of adding 1,600 more housing units a year. And that's just in Eugene. That's not in Lane County, that's just here. So the evolution of Envision Eugene is fantastic. I love it. It's happening, and it's hotter than I've ever seen it. The third is the actual content of this package. As we look into the package, in no small part, it acquiesces to changes in the requirements for housing development that are passed down by the state. We're required to do more now than we were before. Therefore, we have to pay attention to it. We have to do it. We don't get to choose to do it. We have to do it. That's all included in the package. And it also highlights the needs for the partnerships between jurisdictions, between the state and the county and the city. And I don't just mean in the UTA zoning code. The UTA zoning code, which is a county code administered by the city of Eugene, important that we're in lockstep on that. And I think by and large through the years, I think we have been in evolutionary fashion. But for the future, how does Lane County be a part of the overall need for housing in Lane County, which goes from Hasita Head Lighthouse to the top of the Three Sisters with Eugene in between? Now, the growth in housing has got to happen in the metropolitan area and inside other UGBs. That's the law. Compact urban growth is what it's all about. And the city of Eugene has been stellar, been a leader, absolute leader in driving, directing compact urban growth. There's no question about that. Nobody disagrees with me on that. And I think that that is a important element for the future, because much of the growth does happen in the cities and in the UGBs, particularly in this city, in this UGB. But it's also important that we acquiesce to our role in providing housing, and also how Lane County's role in providing housing outside of the UGBs can actually free up more land inside the UGBs for compact growth. Growth in housing outside of the UGBs isn't going to be compact. It's not. It's going to be on 5-acre, 30-acre, 100-acre parcels. Inside the city of Eugene, we can bring it together tightly and can bring it up even higher than we ever have. It's exciting that we can do that. I think it's exciting that Lane County can play a really vital role in allowing the city of Eugene to meet that goal of 1,700 housing units. Is that right? 1,700 housing units a year, 1,600. But those are my 3 compliments. It's wonderful. And I'm excited, because I'm signed up at least through 2028, and let's make it happen. So the criticism is it's really taken a long time to get at this point. It really has been a slow process. And initially, I believe we underestimated the growth of the need and the growth for housing inside of the city of Eugene and inside its existing urban growth boundary. And the initial process with the Envision Eugene gave us a need for industrial land outside the city. We said, no, we don't need any more residential land. Well, maybe we could put those numbers together and say, yes, that's true. However, we're demonstrating now that if we'd taken a little bit more foresight then, we wouldn't be so far behind today. But we're catching up, and that's what this is all about. And that's, Terry, that's the exciting part about this. You and I have been working together since your twins were born, and before that even. And it's exciting that we're at the point right now where we can all work together and really make some things happen. Because we have people living on the streets, people living in substandard housing that need better and deserve better. And that is what this is all about. So bravo 3 times, criticism 1 time. And the good news is that the state is working on new rules that are being updated right now. And that especially we are identifying known barriers to housing development. And I have quotation marks around that. So bravo, thank you very much. Look forward to the next years of working together to make it happen. Rebecca, thanks very much. And Alyssa, thanks very much for being a wonderful presentation. Jared, see you later.
He has left the building. Commissioner Trieger, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm also supportive of initiating because we need to initiate to see what comes back so we can actually really dig in. So I will just offer my appreciation for the thorough and clear presentation. I've been noodling around on the review, on the draft map. That's really interesting. It's very stark when you look at that, how much of the land mass within the UGB is low-density residential. So if we want to talk about compact development and urban infill, that's where the most possibility lives, in my opinion. I will echo what Commissioner Farr said about looking at addressing barriers to building housing, compact development, and I think Terry used the phrase land use efficiency measures. I certainly hope that that includes looking very closely at how much of our urban land we use and spend and require developers to invest in to house our cars instead of house people. I think that is, if I had to point to the single greatest barrier to the cost of building housing, to density, to urban development, there is more than one, but if I had to point to one, we have a real problem with how much money and land we take up inside the city to store and house cars when we have people who are unhoused. It's a real problem. So I'm very excited to see the work that grows out of this and supportive of initiating, so you can bring that work back and we can take it from there.
Commissioner Buck.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. On slide 19, you had the needs versus trends, showing housing production and the average production that we've seen in the past, and noted that there's a pretty big gap between 2025's estimated housing or new net dwellings versus the new ONA need. I think my first question is, what do you think is the reason for that? Because it's so much lower than even the last few years. What is hindering that you see?
That's a great question. I think we'd get a more comprehensive answer from our economic development team, because what I learned at the Economic Summit was this is not unique to Eugene. We're just seeing a downturn in development and growth nationally. But these numbers were a surprise to us. So we try to take the longer term view and use averages a lot in our long-term planning work. So we don't know yet if this is a continued trend or if it'll bounce back next year. We're keeping an eye on it, but I guess that's where I would start with that.
And this gray bar, that was the estimated for the full year of 2025? I would love to be able to dig in on that at some point. My other question is, knowing this ONA need is something that you have already calculated with the new instructions from the state, is that right?
Yes, this is a number already given to us in January of this year.
So you didn't provide the number, it was provided to you?
Yes.
And that was for Lane County specific?
It's for Eugene.
Or Eugene specific, excuse me. So they were factoring in a backlog of housing that's been needed, including what they project out for the future. So when they provided this new formula and the new amount of units that need to be developed every year, was there any mechanism that was granted to be able to bump up to that production?
Like any assistance from the state in meeting the goals? The state has been generous with planning dollars. We do have a planning grant from DLCD to assist with our analysis and our work. The dollars for actually building housing are a lot more limited. So we've been talking with our city council about what we can do locally to increase revenue streams, and we brought to them in mid-December a proposal to create some new housing incentives with local dollars, and they directed us to come back with more information. So one of those would be directed specifically to moderate income housing, because we don't have a program locally that specifically addresses that need. So that's one of our ideas, but I think everyone acknowledges that there's a pretty big gap, and it's going to take a while for us to dig out of this hole.
I would agree, although I think with this low amount that's estimated for 2025, our gap is just accentuating every year without any additional real tools that are going to create production of housing on the ground. And this timeline takes us out to 2030 that you presented before any additional land from the urban reserves can be pulled in to help assist with building. And I find that that is a technical problem, specifically because if you are going to try to attempt to bolster the additional homes that need to be provided to the community, you need to be able to bring the technical changes to the codes and in addition to the planning and the tools for the builders on the ground who actually make the homes in order to make it possible to even attempt to fill that gap with the housing that's necessary. So that is a huge barrier that I see. I mean, we definitely need planning dollars. It's good to hear that we're getting planning dollars, but we can plan all day long, but we have to actually change the way in which we do business in order to increase that housing supply. And that's where I think we are missing a huge need in this process. We know we need community engagement. You've been doing that. You'll continue to do that outside this process. But in 5 years, when we finally get to the point where we're able to actually bring in urban reserve land, I'm afraid that this gap, already horrendous at this point, is going to be multiplied, and we have lost time. So if there was ever any feedback that I would advocate for, which I know that we continue to do at the state level, is that we need that technical adjustment from the state in order to actually change the activity on the ground.
Vice Chair Ewan?
Yeah. Well said, Commissioner Buck. Yeah, I was really shocked to see the 2025 number as well, especially with that being a governor's priority and everything, and we're falling further and further behind. So I think we covered that pretty well. But part of that, and it's been hit on earlier, site-specific zoning changes is something you want to hit on. So what would be the plan for that? I mean, obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously, but I believe we all agree that that needs to happen. Now, to Commissioner Buck's point, how do we make it happen, and how do we make it happen quickly?
Thanks for the question. I think there are a couple of different ways. We have a running list already of ideas or pieces of property that folks have told us the zoning is a barrier to building. So we're keeping a track of that. We've asked public agencies if they have property that's no longer needed, that's surplus. So list of that and an ongoing ask out to every public agency if there's property that won't be used for their intended purpose. sell it to us, please. We'll put it in the housing land bank and develop it for housing. And then lastly, we have this centers and corridor strategy that Rebecca talked about. And while we don't have the tools exactly figured out yet, the policies have been drafted, the map has been done, and we're looking for ways to increase development around those centers. And so that could be changes in zoning. It could be incentives that are directed to properties within a certain proximity of a center or a transit line. So we're laying the policy background or foundation for that now. And we'll continue to work on what the tools are and where the zoning changes are actually proposed to go forward. And that needs to happen in 2027 because our land supply study won't be updated until 2027. So right now we can't change zoning because we have a balance based on our old need. So we're in the process of updating that.
Thank you, taking notes. So then that's kind of all wrapped into part of the voluntary annexation, then it sounds like. That would all be part of that same conversation.
It's related. Do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit separate because some of the properties that Terry is bringing up are already in the city limits, and that, you know, we've been working with property owners who want to upzone, and certain things need to be in place before that can happen. The voluntary annexation strategy is really, I mean, it's mostly, emphasizing Santa Clara and River Road and the patchwork pattern out there, and hoping that, and most of that land is honestly low-density residential, and unless it annexes into the city, folks can't divide, they can't build middle housing, and so we're really hoping that we can encourage, more people to annex, to build more housing. It might just be 1 and 2 here, but I think we'll take what we can get. Everything doesn't need to be an apartment building. We can, have a duplex here, have some land divisions there. So that's part of the annexation strategy.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I guess sitting back and being the commissioner of River Road, Santa Clara area, that's what I had envisioned. So it is, having it all kind of tied together. And then land use code updates. What are your thoughts there for helping production?
Sure. Well, the first example that comes to mind is actually a jobs example. So I'm going to tell you about it, and then I can come back to housing. We have some zones that we created in 2014 called Employment 1 and Employment 2, so E1 and E2, and they have not been performing like we need them to. So we're currently in the process of looking through the code language for the E1 and E2 zones and adding uses to those zoning districts, reducing barriers to jobs development, like certain requirements for a percentage of the building to be in a certain use, or, things that were important at the time that we developed those zones, but have not been serving the overall goal. And we're doing similar work with our residential zones. So looking for barriers in our multi-unit development standards and design standards. Do those need to be kept, or can we shed some of those requirements in certain areas or for certain types of housing? Just really kind of combing through the land use code, looking for barriers and opportunities to get more housing out of our existing land. Yeah, so everything's on the table at this point.
Right, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Well, I love that. I love that approach, and this is tough to look at, and just knowing and seeing the numbers, and it almost seems overwhelming. But this presentation has been great. I mean, and the fact that we are looking at everything as an option. As a question, I don't expect you to know the answer, but if we took the urban growth reserve, made that the urban growth boundary, would that get us to the 26,273 houses or whatever we're short? I mean, if you could change the zone to high density where you wanted to and still stop urban sprawl, if that's what you want to call it, is our urban growth reserve even big enough at this point to get there?
We believe it is at this time. But as our development patterns change, we based our assumptions probably on lower density development than we're going to continue with in the future because of middle housing and how we've been developing in the urban growth boundary. And I think that will help us use urban reserves more efficiently in the future. So we believe that urban reserves will likely be adequate for over the next 20-plus years.
We'll see. Look at that. We got some good news. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, well, we're going to run short on time, but great land use map. I think that's a really great essential clarity for most developers and people when do that. That's really great. They can find the clear boundaries, who the owners are, all that stuff. That was a huge deal. And I think the other huge deal that I want to applaud you for is just the idea that you could suggest SDC flexible payments. That's really good as well. I mean, as a builder, the only one on this board here that does that, I know that SDC's got to be paid for before you put a hammer in the ground or a saw or whatever. And that's a real barrier sometimes to getting the project moving forward, to creating some cash flow to pay for the thing so we can build it. So I appreciate your deal with that. I also appreciate the way you're aardvarking your way through this, if I can use that term. You know, how you're sniffing out the way you can change this zone and that zone. And, you know, you said that, you know, if we'll take one or two annexable properties, we'll take them. That's a great approach. And that's what we're going to have to do, is systematically attack this beast as it is. I was interested when you said about the voluntary annexation process. Where are we in the Santa Clara area? Have we overcome that big burden of people just saying, heck no, no way, we're never going to annex, or are we having any ground gain on that? Because I see that as a real barrier to a lot of things, public safety, coverage, all those kinds of things. I mean, I may be getting off track, so excuse me, please, but.
No, I mean, annexation is a really big question, and it certainly is, you know, it's more than planning. It's about governance and public service and I think sentiments have changed. Sure, there are people who don't want to annex, and honestly, I mean, most people don't raise their hand and say, please raise my taxes. And so that's, you know, what comes with it at this point is your property taxes are going to increase. And so that's why we're really focusing on the housing aspect of that. So if somebody's interested in producing housing, they know their property taxes are going to go up, but they're also going to have the benefit of being able to build housing. So we do see, I mean, we see people who are interested in annexing who can't because they're not contiguous to the city limits also. So yeah, there are people who are interested. I don't see any bulldog signs out there anymore, but that doesn't mean that the sentiment has completely changed. But I will continue, you know, the city's policy is voluntary annexation.
Good, thank you. Although Commissioner Buck did bring up some good points, I want to add some other points to that as well. I think that the largest barrier to us reaching that goal, obviously that graph is alerting us to the reality of what's going on, is we're not attracting business that aggressively in Lane County. And in order for us to attract business that would build housing, that would spur middle housing, if we're talking about actually building 1,600 houses per year, and nearly half of those are going to be required or suggested to be affordable housing, who's going to pay that difference? I mean, is government going to pay that difference? Is developers going to pay that difference? Because let's say we build $1 billion worth of houses to meet 1,600, and $500 million of that dollars of money's got to come from some other entity besides the buyer of that property. Who pays for that? And that's the real ugly elephant in the room question that we all need to face. Micro housing and cluster housing has been a great option. I think to Commissioner Farr's point, we're too slow in getting there. My experience working with some of the builders and architects in town is because this micro housing and cluster policies have been so slow going, they've checked out of the system. Most of those guys that have instituted that, like back in the early 90s, are now at retirement age, and they're saying, heck with it, I'm out of the job market, and they're out of the planning and visionary process. To that end, too, we have constructions and trade jobs that are leaving this area in droves. And I'm hating painting the bad picture here, but this is the reality of what I deal with in how we develop. Finding a plumber, finding a sheetrocker, finding a framer is increasingly difficult. The costs, if you do find one, are increasingly higher because now they're the only ones in the room doing it, kind of a thing. So we are having a vortex of problems and a collective problems that are making this all come to a real ugly head. So the challenges I see ahead and some of the fixes are perhaps we should also look at with our SDC process, which is kind of a craw on my side, so forgive my emotion on this a little bit, is we should limit the amount of other agencies dipping into the building system. And I say that because on a project we just finished, we paid nearly $50,000 to a park district to build 12 units of housing. Now, talk about a barrier to affordable housing. How often and how unnoticed does it go that other entities within the municipal system dipping tentacles into the building process. I think that's a real barrier to affordable housing, or any housing for that matter. We should put a limit on that. We should police that a little stronger, in my opinion. Also, I think that, Alyssa, the voluntary annexation thing is a great idea. But I think also, too, with your credit, I think what you're doing and trying to get done what the government, the state is tasking us to do at 1,600 houses, which is a crazy amount of housing for this area when there's no demand for it yet that could support it, is you're doing density applications with discretion and discernment. And I want to applaud you for doing that. I mean, you're looking at different things that you can build greater, denser, and you're discerning how to do that in the most equitable way and moving forward incrementally. And that's going to make us move forward. I don't believe that's going to get us to the goal. I don't believe that goal is realistic. Based just on 2025, interest rates are high, building costs are high. We are not going to attack this beast anytime soon. But I applaud you for attacking it in the way that you are. And if I can do anything to help, including support this measure, I am happy to be a part of the team. So, no question, just a lot of blurb. So just experience coming off the table here. All right. Is there any other discussion for the board? Yes, Commissioner Farr.
Just one final note of optimism. Commissioner Seneca asked you, Rebecca, asked everybody, but you answered, Rebecca, is the urban reserve adequate? And you tentatively kind of slowly said, we believe it is. I believe it is too. I agree with you on that. That's a note of optimism. 10 years ago, I'd have guffawed and said, not a chance. But now, as we focus more on dense urban growth and making certain that we are doing things differently inside the existing urban growth boundaries, we can do it. We can. But Lane County has to be a partner in making certain that we do our part outside of the urban growth boundaries as well. So it's a really intricate partnership that is going to make your prediction, I believe we can, is going to make your prediction come true. Thank you.
There's no other comment, board. Thank you for your comments and sharing. I'm looking for a motion.
Chair, I move to initiate amendments to Lane County's Urban Transition Area Land Use Code, Lane Code 10.600-25, to align with updates to the Metro Plan and Envision Eugene Comprehensive Plan, and to comply with state law requirements as part of the city's Eugene's 2026 Urban Growth Strategies adoption process.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to move forward the initiated amendments by the Lane County's Urban Transition Area Land Use Code as he described. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Well done. Keep trudging along. People will get this beast tackled at some point.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
We'll keep hardworking.
Good job.
We'll get you the picture, Jared.
This looks like it concludes our morning agenda items. We'll recess until 1:30, meeting right back here at Harris Hall. Time certain 1:30. We'll see you there. We're recessed.